Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
We are ready to rock and roll on this Wednesday morning. Good day to you. September 29th, 2021. Great to be with you, as always, as we come to you from atop the Murchison Building, along the banks of the Cape Fear River, overlooking Battleship, North Carolina. Here until 10 o'clock, our call-in number is 910-299-7535. That's 910-299-7535. A little distracted this morning as we were getting set to come on the air. I caught about a 5-minute or so highlight of a program that ran on the CBS Sports Network just the other day of my Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, and a guy that I've gotten to know over the last 5 or 6 years who's made multiple appearances on this program, and his name is Joe Moglia, and he was the former head football coach at Coastal, the former CEO and chairman of the board at TD Ameritrade, of course, worked on the recent financial merger between Ameritrade and Charles Schwab, and what a unique and interesting life that man has lived, coming from the streets of Bronx, New York, living just a couple of blocks from where my grandmother grew up, and got into coaching college football up north, was the defensive coordinator at Dartmouth in the late 90s, and then opted to get out of college football and move into a more lucrative career. Then began, well, a long streak on Wall Street, working with Charles Schwab and some of the other big titans of the financial world, ultimately moving out to Omaha, Nebraska with TD Ameritrade, and then ultimately, returning to the world of college football after all of the successes he enjoyed in the financial world, and wanting to get back into college football, sort of a difficult thing after, parting ways with coaching and many of the connections that you had made. And, up north, Ivy League football, not necessarily the bastion of, competitiveness and high level when you think about the college football ranks, and little old school down the road in Conway, South Carolina. Gave him an opportunity after some things fell into place for him, and has transformed what that athletics program looks like down at Coastal, and just an amazing career, and a very interesting a video that caught my attention, not only because I personally know the guy, but anytime we can look at success stories and learn about what it takes and what makes people turn inside to go from nothing to something across various industries, I think it's worth our attention, and just a very cool distraction this morning as we were getting set to jump on the air with all these different notes and audio clips that we've put together for you here this morning that we hope to get to at some point either today or by the end of the week. Of course, last Friday, we talked with the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association, and we gave, the microphone to Cameron Moore and Mayor Bill Saffo. Mayor Saffo had an extended opportunity here on this program to talk about his time as mayor over the last several years, the last 15 years, and up for re-election this year with a familiar name, in the mayoral race, and Harper Peterson, and in fact, the candidates for Wilmington City Council and the two mayoral candidates met for a few hours virtually on Tuesday night. So prior to myself catching the clip on Joe Moglia, I was trying to listen through the Zoom candidates forum that was put on by a couple of local groups yesterday. And I'm going to be honest with you. I made it through about 2 minutes of the 2.5-hour video. Frankly, these Zoom meetings, these virtual discussions, I just can't engage. And I knew that several years ago, prior to my time hosting the program here on the Big Talker, before the new Big Talker even existed. I had worked for another media company in the area, and they were owned by a group up in Williamsburg, Virginia. They had all these different consultants and others that were around the country, and they were one of the first companies that I worked with that had, these virtual capabilities and really tapped into them to a point where it was kind of nauseating and completely disengaging, frankly, when you talk about what you're trying to accomplish on the ground as far as your goals day to day here locally. And then you've got people in California, Williamsburg, Virginia, and elsewhere trying to tell you how to do your job on the ground without a true understanding of the environment here locally and what it took to accomplish some of the goals that they had set for us, from this branch that we were operating here in Wilmington. And that was, I want to say 7-8 years ago. And I just became completely disengaged and, frankly, a terrible employee. And then, at one point I got the pink slip because of it. Because to me, when we talk about business and trying to get things done, I'm not a big guy when it comes to meetings. And there are some companies out there that meet all the time, all day, every day, talking about like 3, 4, 5 hours of meetings. Well, if you put, say, 8 to 10 hours of a workday in and you're meeting for 3 to 4 hours, well, time is limited to get things done. And I'm more of the person that likes to work for people and amongst people who work for me in some instances. Let's put the right people in place, give them the framework, and let them do their job. And then, of course, weekly or every couple of weeks, maybe monthly, then we revisit some things, and there are specific points that we hit during the discussion. When we talk about business, it's about business, and we get it done efficiently, effectively, and then it's on to the next thing. And then we screw around and get personal or tell jokes, do this, that, and the other. But when we're talking business around the table, let's keep the focus on that. And there's just so many companies out there and, well, frankly, employers that don't have that sort of mindset, which is why I rarely fit in certain environments. In fact, I was talking with a buddy of mine who works within academia just the other day, and meeting upon meeting upon meeting upon meeting, and you just sit there, picking your nose. I don't know how anyone can be engaged or motivated, inspired to be better, do better, and create a greater situation for the people that you're trying to serve with that kind of mindset. But that's just me. Talking from my high horse this morning above the Murkinson building. So I was distracted, and my attention quickly went elsewhere today while I was trying to catch up on some of the substance that was a part of last night's mayoral and city council forum that was held virtually over Zoom here in the Wilmington area. I mean, I'm not sure how anyone could have sat on that meeting and listened for the entire time. What I did pick up from it, and what the brief report over at WWAY had to say, well, the mayoral race, Mayor Sappho and Harold were, trading barbs back and forth with one another. And we heard that to a point towards the end of our conversation with Mayor Sappho back on Friday when I asked him, why should people put faith in you after 15 years in office as compared to, a candidate who has served across various levels of government during his time in public office. And something rang true with me when the mayor said, well, listen, been elected 15 for 15 years, multiple times. My opponent in this race has never been reelected, meaning he's run for city council, then jumped to mayor as one term, then disappeared for a little while, resurfaced with new, bold, fresh ideas, supposedly. And while the situation with Gen X and the water was a hot topic at the time, Senator Lee lost by a couple hundred votes to Harper for this seat in the state Senate representing New Hanover County, one term, and then out. Completely ineffective. And I get it to an extent. He was in the minority party. But nonetheless, literally did not see one piece of legislation or situation where he had been able to make an impact representing a region where we are one of the fastest growing places in all of the state, let alone in the country. And a guy who has never been able to reassure voters to get reelected to any public office he has held, whether it was mayor years ago or his time as our state senator. I just don't see the appeal, but nonetheless, I'm just one voice. I do think there are some interesting candidates running for city council, and I think there's an opportunity for that council to look very differently come election night, a couple of weeks away. There are 3 seats up for grabs. 2 candidates running for re-election. They are Charlie Rivenbark and Clifford Barnett. Luke Waddell is someone who I think has young appeal, would bring some fresh blood into the mix. And although I wholeheartedly disagree with much of what he talks about, there is a other candidate in the race. His name is Philip White. I follow him on social media, and the guy is putting in the work. He often makes note when attending various meetings and council discussions that he's the only candidate for office other than those who are on council who is consistently at these meetings, taking notes, putting the work in. And although I may disagree with his approach on certain things or where he stands on an issue, I can commend that when it comes to putting the time in and doing the work, becoming informed and educated on the issues, and frankly, being your own voice. And when we get into these popularity contests within local government, because many people just rather not pay attention for some odd reason, and then many, of course, complain when you get the letter in the mailbox telling you that your property taxes are going to go up, or they're going to charge you more on this fee or this service, or they'll be pulling back on this service or role that they've played in the past. And then people get incredibly engaged and upset and go to the media, and it gains headlines. But while the sausage is being made, so to speak, right now, in the weeks leading up to an election, people just kind of stay away. And then on election day, they don't even know who the candidates are or why they'd go vote for them. So it ultimately turns into a popularity contest. Who has the best name recognition? And when it comes to some of the local issues, being your own voice is incredibly important in these sorts of races for local government. And I commend Mr. White for the work that he puts in based on what I see on social media. Then there are a few other candidates in that race. Jonathan Ustaki, who's a new candidate. I know him personally, and he's been on our program on multiple occasions, not to talk about city issues specifically, but more about his life story as a native from Venezuela, as someone who, he and his wife, small business owners who also homeschool their 2 sons. We've talked a lot about some of those sorts of topics and his view on life, given the fact that he grew up in a much different place and saw a very prosperous nation become, well, worse than a third world country within a generation. And we're talking like 20 years. Venezuela was and still has some of the richest resources of any South American country. Yet we all know what's been playing out down in that region of Earth over the last 2 decades due to corruption, due to the implementation of a socialist state, and how that ends up for, what was a thriving middle class. They are now in lines to get, rationed bread and toilet paper. So Jonathan, no doubt, has a very unique story to tell. And he holds various gatherings at his local restaurant on Military Cutoff Road and is everywhere, whether it be the local school board meeting or other different organizations that host him and their civic-mindedness here in the area. There's also another Republican candidate in this race for city council. His name is J.B. Brookins. Paul Lawler is also a former city councilman and a familiar name who fell out of the top 3. He finished 4th in the last city council race and once again has tossed his name in the hat to this upcoming cycle. And the final candidate, her name is Angie Ulmer. At least from my understanding of local government, more of a lesser-known candidate, new to the mix, as compared to the players, so to speak, who have been involved in the time that at least I've lived here, over 15 years. And when it comes to the city of Wilmington, the town of Leland, there are some unique challenges, no question about it. There was a lot going on. We had a chance to talk with some of those candidates over in Leland a couple of weeks back, from infrastructure, from housing. How do we get a handle on some of the violence that we see in our streets and in our schools? These growth-related issues that we're dealing with. And as I've said, that's a good thing. Being able to have these challenges in front of us and hope to attack them in one way, shape, or form in the next several years as the growth continues in our area. Would we rather be growing or dying? Because there are many other places around the country that are dying, and that presents a whole new set of hurdles and issues that have to be confronted immediately. We're in a growth period here, and that's a good thing for all involved within southeastern North Carolina. We're 23 minutes after the hour. If you'd like to tune in, call in rather, our number is 910-299-7535 if you'd like to be a part of the program.
Baby, do you understand me now? Sometimes I feel a little mad. But don't you know that no one alive can always be an angel? When things go wrong, I seem to be bad. But I'm just a soul whose intentions are good. Oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood.
Hey guys, there is some important news that all men should take very seriously. Your prostate health. Are you urinating more frequently? Are you waking up at night to urinate? Are you sick and tired of prostate pills that just don't work? Sound familiar? If you are one of the millions of men with prostate problems that are driving you nuts, there is some great news. Prostagenics is the all-natural product that beat over 157 other prostate supplements in lab tests and was rated the #1 most powerful prostate supplement in the world. #1, because it works. So why not try some Prostagenics, and your prostate troubles will be a thing of the past. You'll get a great night's sleep and stop waking up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. To get your free bottle of Prostagenics, call now, 800-600-2020. That's 1-800-600-2020. Take advantage of our 90-day money-back guarantee. Call 800-600-2020. Do it now.
Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
The Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association serves as the advocate for the building industry, advancing professionalism and promoting community involvement. We are a positive force for responsible growth while protecting property rights and the privilege of home ownership. 3 out of every 5 jobs is touched in some manner by construction in our region. Growth generates jobs, maintains our property values, and builds and updates our infrastructure. Join us Friday mornings for the Construction Connection with the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association and the Big Talker FM.
I'm State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better state. We are one of the fastest growing and most reviewed insurance agencies in Wilmington. That's because our customers love the personalized attention that we give to you. Let us help you get to a better state by visiting our website at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
All right, as we move to the bottom of the hour here this morning, looking forward to a conversation that we will have just after 8 o'clock with Chris McKinley, retired Navy SEAL, local physician's assistant with Trinity Wellness Waterford. Chris will be in just after the second hour as we kick off our guest list about 30 minutes from now. And again, a reminder to the folks out there that there are various ways in which you can tune in each morning at 106.7 FM. Yes, we do have the video feature on Facebook, but we're not going to make any bones about it. Well, we know where the social media giant stands when it comes to the things we talk about day to day. And we can't guarantee that the audio will play accordingly through that platform. You can catch another avenue to our program through YouTube. You can get the audio at BigTalkerFM.com. And if you've missed a portion of our show, JoeCats.com has a complete replay of the show in podcast form, uploaded each day just after 10 o'clock. And if you shoot me a note, whether it be through Facebook or email, if you have my number, text message, I'd be happy to pull the audio for you if you missed it from earlier on in the show. In Washington, D.C., of course, we heard from the generals yesterday, and we'll get into that a bit with Chris McKinley, the retired Navy SEAL, who has spent multiple tours and missions in that region of the world, and we'll get his take on it, and we'll go through some of the cliff notes, because it was a long and drawn-out hearing, and rightfully so, given that many lawmakers and much of the American people have questions about the past 20 years, along with most recently, of course, this withdrawal and how it all played out. And additional questions, of course, based on, some of the excerpts of this book that was released not too long ago with Bob Woodward, one of the D.C. creatures trying to make some money off an tell-all D.C. publication that recently garnered a lot of attention. So we've got some of that news. Also in Washington, D.C., Nancy Pelosi delivered some remarks about infrastructure, the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill that is up for discussion this week, the looming debt limit and government shutdown facing the federal government. She maybe let the cat out of the bag with this comment as we head to break. Maybe gave us a little backdrop as to who the puppet master really is pulling the strings in the Harris-Biden administration. Take a listen.
Keep government open. We have to do those imminently, more imminently even, to address the full Obama agenda of building back better.
Did she say the full Obama agenda of building back better? Did you hear what I heard?
Keep government open. We have to do those imminently, more imminently even, to address the full Obama agenda of building back better.
So we need to keep the government open to address the full Obama agenda of building back better. Is this a case of letting the cat out of the bag and pulling the curtain back? It's not a big old powerful Oz. It's just some guy like me, a one-man band behind the microphone. Is it Obama pulling the strings? Because all of a sudden President Obama has come out and said it is unsustainable to have an open border. 9 months for someone to make mention of that in the camp of Biden. Keep the government open to address the full Obama agenda of building back better. So is it Nancy giving us some insight into the true puppet master here pulling the strings? Or is it a case of Nancy living by the words of you can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning?
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is sounding an urgent call for Congress to raise the U.S. government's borrowing limit a day after Senate Republicans blocked consideration of a bill that would have done so. Yellen testified before a Senate committee at a hearing yesterday to update Congress on the impact of the vast financial support programs the government enacted after the viral pandemic paralyzed the economy 18 months ago. If the debt limit isn't raised, Yellen says, the country would likely face a financial crisis and economic recession. The U.S. Secretary of Defense and top military leaders testifying publicly yesterday for the first time since the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan and the suicide bombings that killed 13 U.S. troops and dozens of Afghans. The Pentagon leaders defended the decision to leave at the end of last month, saying staying longer would have put U.S. personnel at greater risk. But Generals Mark Milley and Frank McKenzie testified they advised both former President Trump and President Biden that the military should have kept a presence on the ground. An arrest has been made in a fatal hit-and-run on Carolina Beach Road on September 19th that killed Ahmaud Brown. The State Highway Patrol arresting 22-year-old Adam Marshall of Wilmington, charging him with felonious hit-and-run resulting in death. Additional charges are likely. Anyone who had contact with Marshall on Saturday, September 18th in the Carolina Beach area should contact Highway Patrol. And new hurricane sensor technology is now ready to deploy if a storm comes our way. Beach Access Number 2 in Wrightsville Beach is one of the locations chosen to place a temporary sensor if necessary. The sensors are installed 2 to 3 days before a hurricane makes landfall and are removed when conditions improve. Spencer Rogers with North Carolina Sea Grant says the technology will provide data for better storm prep in the future. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Well, it's going to be another pleasant day from start to finish across the Cape Fear. We're expecting temperatures, though, to be above the average. Inland of the coast, we're going to be jumping into the middle and upper 80s. Along the immediate coastline, we're topping off in the low to middle 80s, but expect lots of sunshine, and the quiet weather will continue. We do have a cold front that's on the way later this evening, and our temperatures tonight are only going to fall down into the middle and the upper 60s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Along with retired Navy SEAL Chris McKinley this morning, we'll also hear from our good buddy Richard Battle out of the Lone Star State, the great state of Texas. He wants to share some thoughts. He originally pitched me an idea and then came back like an hour later saying, listen, what we're seeing in Washington is just a complete mess. Why don't we talk once again about the lack of leadership and the characteristics that have passed eons of time when it comes to proven principles and the ways in which true leaders act as compared to what we see in places of government these days. So we'll touch on the aspect of leadership and the lack thereof within the political world when Richard joins us just after 9 o'clock. And we'll also hear from attorney Jessica Thompson out of the Pacific Legal Foundation. Jessica was I would say played a big part last summer when Governor Cooper was on the fence of reopening certain establishments across North Carolina. Remember, we went forward with the reopening, and then there were certain businesses within certain industries that were not able to open back up the way others were. Remember, the governor announced one day, it was the day the music died, St. Patrick's Day, 2020, when it all shut down, 5 o'clock. Went over to Hell's Kitchen before I had some work to do here before 5 o'clock, a shot and a beer. I said, I don't know the next time I'm going to be here, or let alone any other bar or restaurant. And then it went on for months. And then the governor decided we were going to reopen. And as we started to reopen, he allowed restaurants to move forward. And then all of a sudden, after making that announcement in the 11th hour, all of a sudden, breweries and wineries were added to that list with no explanation. We were following the science and the data, remember? But while those breweries and wineries were able to reopen along with other establishments, private bars remained closed and stayed closed for weeks upon weeks. And finally, Jessica with the Pacific Legal Foundation joined a lawsuit alongside an establishment up in Greenville, pushed the issue to the courts, and just as a judge was about to rule in favor of the private establishment to reopen under the same guidelines that were in place for the rest of the industry, all of a sudden, Governor Cooper caught the political wind and realized that he may suffer a big old fat L in the courts. So then decided that he was going to reopen the bars, the privately owned establishments in North Carolina. Jessica fights for the right of business owners and others within her role at the Pacific Legal Foundation. And she'll tell us about a ridiculous story of government overreach coming out of North Carolina this morning in a lawsuit that she has filed on behalf of one local North Carolinian. So Chris, of course, is going to join us, a retired Navy SEAL, just after 8 o'clock, and we'll talk a bit about the Secretary of Defense and the two generals who testified yesterday in front of the Senate Armed Services Committee. They'll be meeting again today. As you just heard Jeff Rivenbark a moment ago, one of the key takeaways was the fact that the generals had recommended that we keep a certain level of troops in Afghanistan, and, As the commander-in-chief, you have the ultimate decision rights, and we saw what played out, despite the recommendations from the generals. That recommendation was ignored. You then also heard from, I believe it was Milley, General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the highest-ranking military official in our armed forces. He basically said, listen, well, there are a bunch of terrorists now running rampant in the country that we were in for 20 years, and they're going to have the ability to attack us anywhere between 12 to 36 months. So when you hear something like that from the highest-ranking military official we have in the country, your ears start to perk up, and you say, well, I'm 38 years old. We've been in Afghanistan for half of my life, 20 years, thousands killed in action, thousands more injured, families sacrificing their men in service to our country. And in 1 year, we may be in another scenario where our nation could be on the cusp of dealing with a potential terrorist attack on the homeland. That kind of just makes you crack your neck. Well, what was the purpose of going there for 20 years if we were only going to be able to deter the terrorists from attacking us for 1 year after we left? And in the meantime, our southern border is wide open. Million people so far that have come in, at least that we know about. And as much as we should welcome those who were aligned with us during our 20 years in Afghanistan to our country or elsewhere for a better life and one that will be able to be lived through and not a situation where you're getting beheaded by the terrorists who are now in charge. You've got thousands of people from the war-torn country now coming into our nation. Our government, of course, says they're going to be vetted. Well, our government, of course, told us that for 20 years that we were working to train an army and a people that could defend themselves with assistance from us, whether it be from on the ground or in the air. And look as to where we are now. And then the general made the point that given the mission that we had, logistically, we carried it out 100%. It was a success. Logistically, what we were asked to do, we accomplished. But the whole withdrawal and the strategy behind it was a complete failure. So then you have to say, well, yes, the commander-in-chief has the ultimate decision rights, but well, you and other high-ranking military officials were responsible for the strategy behind this, and you just admitted failure. The Taliban was and remains a terrorist organization and still has not broken ties with al-Qaeda. Well, there's no surprise. It's a real possibility that in ungoverned spaces, conditions could present themselves in the next 12 to 36 months with aspirations to attack the U.S., a very real possibility. And then, when pushed back as to our ability to conduct missions in Afghanistan now, since we've pulled everything out, and say our intelligence identifies a group of people who are, in position or gathering the necessary resources to carry out some sort of attack. Well, General Kenneth McKinsey admits that it will be difficult for the U.S. to target terrorists because of our lack of presence there. It's not going to be easy. And we need to talk about this more in the closed session because it will not be easy to do that. It will be possible to do that, but it will not be easy. Yes, we will have the right to go after targets as they present themselves, but with limited intelligence and a lack of manpower on the ground, that is going to be a difficult task. So that was the substance of what was discussed yesterday in the Senate Armed Services Committee. General Milley did also admit to talking with various authors about the previous administration. Of course, that was sort of the elephant in the room, given some of the decisions that he made, which garnered headlines a few weeks ago. That received a lot of attention. But I think in the back and forth on that specific topic, the general did say that multiple members of the Trump administration were made aware of the situation, and some were even in the room as he spoke with the highest-ranking military general in China during the final days of Trump in the White House. So I believe we had originally pointed out when that story broke that we were not really big on the tell-all bombshell books written by some of the dwellers who try to stay relevant as they see their time in the swamp starting to fade away. I think there's much more to discuss as far as the decision-making process, the strategy that was a failure, according to General Milley, during the withdrawal. The past 20 years, that should be scrutinized and dissected and garner the attention of the American people and the media rather than these headlines from these D.C. insiders who want to make money selling a book. We are 14 minutes in front of the hour. Retired Navy SEAL Chris McKinley will give us some thoughts on this testimony yesterday. We'll also hear from our good friend Kenny Shue. He has guaranteed me that he will be here with us today, author of the book An Inconvenient Minority. With all this talk of illegal immigration, the 1 million in already that we know about, somehow, some way, 10,000 immigrants turn up at our southern border and they disappear within a day, and many being processed with some papers to reappear in court in a couple of weeks. We all know how that shakes out. Also news that there is another massive migrant caravan at the size that we haven't seen before, even from the year or so ago when it was garnering a lot of attention. Coming up through Mexico right now. Why does the Biden White House favor unskilled illegal immigrants over high-achieving immigrants that came legally? Well, Kenny has some thoughts on that, and he will share them with you in about 45 minutes from right now.
Try to be best, cause you're only a man, and a man's got to learn to take it. Try to believe, though the going gets rough, that you gotta hang tough to make it. History repeats itself, try and you succeed. Never doubt that you're the one, and you can have your dream. You're the best around, nothing's gonna ever keep you down. You're the best around, and nothing's gonna ever...
Government has become too big, too overtaxing, and is constantly over-regulating every aspect of your life.
If you agree with that, tune into Consumer Choice Radio every Saturday at 10 a.m. here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM with me, Yael Osowski.
And me, David Clement. For an hour, you'll get expert analysis on what the government is sinking its teeth into next and how you, as a consumer, can push back.
ConsumerChoiceRadio.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
O'Leary's Automotive Repair has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Cozy season right around the corner. Fluffy blankets, pumpkin lattes, new window treatments that make you happy to stay indoors. Our friends at Blinds.com, they make it easy and affordable to install window treatments. Now you get to choose from hundreds of styles. You get advice from a Blinds.com designer, absolutely free. Fall in love with your home. Just go to Blinds.com and save up to 35% off site-wide. Blinds.com, rules and restrictions may apply.
Oh, according to research, 82% of people remember radio ads. So, 82% of you listening will remember that this is an ad for ZipRecruiter. 82% of you will note that if you're hiring, ZipRecruiter finds qualified people for your job. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And 82% of you will remember that you can try ZipRecruiter for free. But you have to go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. Yes, free. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Well, hey, y'all, it's Holly Brewer and Amy Ludwig and Kristen Ludwig from Just Think, the podcast. The podcast where we don't want to tell you what to think. We just challenge you to do it. We're happy to have some of our episodes featured right here on 106.7 The Big Talker on Saturdays at 11 a.m. So we hope you join us in the conversation and most importantly, just think.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
If you'd like to phone in, our number is 910-299-7535. I have a great lineup of guests that will join us beginning just after the top of the hour, about 15 minutes from now. And going back to yesterday's discussion with New Hanover County Commissioner Rob Zappel, I just want to, for the record, put it out there that if you were tuned in about 9:25 or so yesterday, we had a caller, and they had asked for some information based on what Commissioner Zappel had said towards the end of our conversation, about an hour prior to that. And I guess I sounded a little combative and aggressive with our caller, and they were just seeking additional information. And given the fact that, as I mentioned, we wear many hats in this small, independently owned operation, I probably could have been more gracious and polite to that caller. Though, with that being said, and in my defense, we've been doing this for 4 years, and for 4 years, at nearly every hour, top and bottom, we often highlight the various ways, again, in which you can consume this product that we put on for you each day through, again, the many platforms that we highlight at BigTalkerFM.com, the video portion of the show, which you can go back and rewatch after the end of the program on YouTube, on Facebook, the podcast version of our program each day at JoeCats.com. And seriously, if you have a question or you want more info on something we talk about, there is a reason why we try to upsell the alternative ways in which you can listen, because then that provides us another opportunity to create a revenue stream based on you going to those different platforms to consume them. We have analytics and things that are able to follow the clicks, which then, in turn, while I'm sitting across from somebody at a desk asking for them to support us with X amount of dollars each month, I can provide them the material they need by you helping us out and going to these different venues to get the information you may be looking for. So there's a reason behind the madness, why we try to promote these alternative ways in which you can listen. People are just not going to flock to Facebook per se or YouTube and become a social media sensation without the upsell. And that's just the way this business works. There's purpose to all the different platforms that we offer in which you can tune in, listen back. Now, if you want a recording or a recap on something, hey, just shoot us a message. Facebook, you can slide into our DMs, hit me up with an email. we'll do the best we can to get back to you as soon as possible and make it happen. As far as the inquiry that we had from our caller yesterday, New Hanover County Commissioner Rob Zappel came in. We talked about an update that the county commission will receive this upcoming Monday from the group of people that have been selected to discuss the $1.2 billion endowment, essentially the profits from the sale of the hospital. We had talked about, so that update will come on Monday at the county commission meeting as far as, the different intricacies within that body of people who will be discussing that $1.2 billion in the next several months and years and what to do with it. We also talked about the recent meeting of the minds when it comes to safety within the schools and community violence and the pool of money that county commission has approved to provide the resources necessary as presented now by the county manager on how to address some of the things that stemming from that shooting that took place at one of the local high schools not too long ago. Again, one of the eye-opening things from that was the fact that there was a school security audit conducted in 2019. And to our knowledge, there's been no review of that audit until it was called for just a few weeks ago based on a shooting that took place. And then we got into, at the end of it, COVID. He had mentioned, because the last time we talked with Commissioner Zappel, why, everyone had just been talking about getting the jab, and then the Looney Tune doctor out there at the hospital talked about in the leaked video that we need to spread a message out there that you either get the jab or you're going to die. Maybe not the best way to approach people are hesitant on getting the vaccine or hesitant on much of what's been told to us over the last 2 years. Maybe not the best approach, the scare tactics, but nonetheless. Commissioner Zappel did talk about some of the other therapeutics and things that are being offered here locally with the governor in town not too long ago. And here's what Commissioner Zappel had to say if you missed a portion of that conversation yesterday. And again, I reiterate that there are various ways, and you can go get this audio or a note that you may have missed. We try to promote that as much as possible during the ins and outs of our program day to day.
Joe, before I lose you,
Sure.
there was one thing, back on we were talking about the hospital and what's been happening with the COVID. I remember distinctly at the last time I was on, we just were talking briefly at the very end about monoclonal antibody treatment.
Yes, we were.
And earlier this month, the governor, Cooper, came into town with Mandy Cohen, the head of our North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, to put a spotlight on those treatments here over at the Cape Fear Clinic. And I think opened the eyes of a lot of people in our community, myself as well, to show that we have millions of doses of this sitting here at the state and making it available here to our local area. For those of you unfamiliar with it, this is an infusion treatment that when taken can relieve or eliminate the effects of COVID. The interesting thing is that Dr. Cohen said very strongly and very loudly that this could be used as a prophylaxis, meaning that if you are in an area where you come in contact with somebody who has COVID, before you have symptoms, before you start feeling lousy, you can take this infusion that will prevent you from getting the symptoms. And the real goal here is keeping people out of the hospital. This treatment is available at the Cape Fear Clinic. There's no insurance required, and there is no ability to pay. You can go down there, you pick up the phone, make an appointment, and you're there. I found it interesting that within several hours after that press conference there, where both the governor and Mandy Cohen spoke about this, both Novant and Wilmington Health Associates came forward with their own press announcement saying, yes, of course, we have infusion treatment centers as well. And the question was asked, well, gee, why did we not know about this? There are more restrictions around it. It needs to be a provider prescribing it there, and at least as of 2 weeks ago, they were also requiring that you have a positive COVID test. That is not the case at the Cape Fear Clinic, where you can step in and do that. So what I see is the community conversation surrounding monoclonal antibody treatment has really been started and engaging, and I think this is a really positive other treatment that we have so that we can keep people out of the hospital, which is really our goal.
And of course, that should have been the goal from the onset of the pandemic. But nonetheless, we had an inquiry yesterday about some of the statements made by Commissioner Zappel as far as these different therapeutics and remedies for those who come in contact with COVID. And we wanted to bring that back to you as we take what we do here extremely seriously day to day. And we want to make sure that we are able to provide, any sort of information and content that you may have missed. And there are multiple ways in which you can do that day to day. And it starts with, of course, a quick message by email or text message, direct message through our social media platforms, or right there on our video post that we've got up and running here this morning on YouTube and Facebook. When we get back, retired Navy SEAL Chris McKinley will join us based on testimony heard yesterday from our top generals and the Secretary of Defense up on Capitol Hill.
Keeping Leland informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Struggling to adjust President Biden's huge $3.5 trillion government overhaul.
With the fate of his ambitious domestic agenda twisting in the wind and a government funding deadline approaching, President Joe Biden canceled a Midwest trip planned for today. A White House official who was granted anonymity told the Associated Press Tuesday night Biden canceled a trip to Chicago that would have focused on COVID-19 vaccinations. Biden and Democratic leaders are working to trim his signature $3.5 trillion government overhaul to satisfy centrist Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema without losing progressives. Of immediate concern is passing a government funding bill before the Thursday midnight deadline. Senate Republicans have blocked funding votes twice this week, and Democrats will likely have to strip debate over the debt limit to move the funding bill forward. Mike Gracia, Washington.
Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley went to Capitol Hill yesterday, where he defended his calls to the Chinese during the final weeks of the Trump presidency. He told lawmakers that he made 2 calls to his Chinese counterpart because of concerning intelligence that China was worried about a U.S. attack.
I am certain that President Trump did not intend to attack the Chinese, and it is my directed responsibility, and it was my directed responsibility by the Secretary to convey that intent to the Chinese.
Some lawmakers have said Milley overstepped his authority, and Donald Trump blasted him as treasonous. It could be a rough weekend in the water for beachgoers along the U.S. East Coast. The National Hurricane Center predicts life-threatening surf and rip currents as Hurricane Sam turns northward. The storm has top winds of 130 miles per hour. However, forecasters expect it will remain at sea. More at townhall.com.
Tell me why Relief Factor is so successful in lowering or eliminating pain. I'm often asked that question. Pete and Seth Talbot, the father and son founders of Relief Factor, tell me they believe our bodies were designed to heal. The doctors who formulated Relief Factor selected the 4 best ingredients, 100% drug-free ingredients that each help your body deal with inflammation. Order the 3-week quick start now. Discount it to only $19.95 to see if it will work for you too. Call 800-500-8384. ReliefFactor.com.
Angie's List is now Angie, and getting your to-do list done just got easier. Between back to school and with the holidays around the corner, it can feel like there's no time to tackle home projects. Whether you need help with emergency repairs or major upgrades, Angie matches you with top local pros who can get the job done right. Browse reviews, see upfront pricing, and instantly book hundreds of projects. Save time for what matters most. Book your next project at Angie.com. That's ANGI.com.
Lava from a volcano on Spain's Canary Islands has reached the sea after days of wiping out hundreds of homes and forcing the evacuation of thousands of residents. Correspondent reports experts cannot say when the lava flow will slow down or stop.
They are basically giving up on trying to predict how fast the flows will continue to pour out. So at the moment, we don't have any updates on how long this could go on. Previous eruptions in the Canary Islands have lasted weeks, even months. So there's no way to tell how long it will last.
Columns of steam shot upward when the bright red molten rock tumbled into the Atlantic Ocean. Over the past 10 days, lava has destroyed about 600 buildings. Russia is reporting record coronavirus deaths for the second day in a row, as new cases have risen for weeks now, but authorities say they are not considering imposing nationwide restrictions. News and analysis at townhall.com. A city in northern China has killed 3 house cats after they tested positive for COVID-19.
Authorities defend the action as necessary because there is no available treatment for animals with the disease, and they would have endangered their owner and other residents of the apartment complex in which they lived. The owner tested positive September 21st and went into isolation. A community worker dropped in and gave the cats coronavirus tests, which twice came back positive. Despite an online appeal by the owner, the cats were put to sleep. Rich Thomason reporting.
A prominent backer of Republican causes and candidates is notably absent from the conservative political groups backing efforts to ban in schools what they call critical race theory. Leaders in the network built by the billionaire Koch family say they oppose government bans on the discussion of any concepts. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
All right, we're back at 7 minutes past the hour. Beautiful morning again here across southeastern North Carolina. Middle of the week, maybe a day to play hooky. I got a tummy ache. I'm going to head out to the beach for a couple hours, 2-3 hours this morning. We've got a busy day here across our airwaves. Throughout the rest of the broadcast day, of course, great content from the nationally syndicated hosts. Our friend Mark Markley with Recovering Hope tonight. Prior to Mark's appearance on the show, the studio will be packed up just after 10 o'clock. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams will be producing their latest edition of Wake Up Our Faith. That will be broadcast on our Facebook page, rebroadcast over the Big Talker 106.7 FM Saturday and Sunday mornings from 8 until 9 a.m. And then right after Matt and Kevin exit stage left, we will welcome in Kristen and Amy Ludwig, and they'll be here to record their podcast known as Just Think, the podcast, which we've added to our local schedule on Saturdays from 11 a.m. until noon. And they'll be producing their latest edition of their show after Matt and Kevin exit the studio here this morning. So we've got a busy day from now until around, 2 o'clock this afternoon. So, honey, I'll be a little late. Don't worry, I'm working, I swear. I'll just be pushing the knobs and pulling the levers back behind the window pane here in our Big Talker studios as producer, along with this morning as host, phone screener, general sales manager. What other hats do we have that we can add on to? I can't wait to put together a new business card with all the different titles that I have through the various gigs that we put out there so I can put food on the table. It's a hustle, folks. You got to love the hustle. We're 9 minutes past the hour. Retired Navy SEAL Chris McKinley, physician's assistant, Trinity Wellness, Waterford. Back with us by popular demand, Christopher. You were so popular when the last time you joined us, we had to get you back in as soon as possible.
The pressure. You're putting pressure on me already this morning, Joe.
Oh, I think you thrive under pressure, at least in previous hats that you've worn elsewhere around the world. You thrive under that sort of pressure.
That's a true statement, and I think the pressure of medicine is omnipresent. It's very It's every day, and that's the beauty and the beast of medicine is all practitioners, we love to take care of our patients, and it can be a 24/7 endeavor. You definitely have to set limits upon yourself because you can get burnout.
I want to get into the medical part of what you do, and we'll get into the Afghanistan situation and the testimony in a minute. But something to be said about that when we talk about today and the way in which people live and how quickly we let anxiety, stress, and other sorts of outside influence impact our day-to-day lives, and how much of a role that actually impacts our lives that we may not really come to an understanding until you're so far down the road. And this idea of and it's been a tired old idea, and one that I'm not necessarily in favor for. Hey, here's a Xanax, go continue to operate the way you do, but this medical prescription pill will help alleviate some of that stress and anxiety you have day to day, rather than dissecting, why you have some of this depression, stress, and anxiety. Let's get to the root of it. And we may still need to, medicate you in some way, shape, or form, but let's try and work on ways in which day to day you can take steps to then alleviate yourself from, that prescription pill that provides a lot of profits for big pharmaceutical companies and frankly, many within government these days. And that approach that I like to take to the way I live my life.
Well, Joe, you bring up some pretty good points. Our medical industry is dominated by the pharmaceutical industry, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm one of my slogans is better living through modern chemistry, and sometimes that does involve usage of an antidepressant, a benzodiazepine, the Xanax, or a Valium, a Lexapro or a Prozac with an SSRI. Those are very effective medicines. But long term may not be the plan. Let's get, like you so eloquently stated, let's get to the root of the problem, and let's put you on some of these medications now in the short term. And the short term could be 6 months, it could be 2-3 years. But we don't as people, we don't have a Prozac deficiency. We don't have a Prozac gland. So at Trinity Wellness Center, we look at your thyroid hormones, we look at your sex hormones, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. And we balance these hormones, and we do it in a bioidentical fashion. So they're not synthetic hormones that we replenish your body with. And we also have some pretty amazing nutritional IVs. Everyone's heard of a Myers cocktail. The Myers cocktail is kind of like basic. It's almost like pumpkin spice. Yeah, everyone kind of likes pumpkin spice, but it's just basic. It's pretty mundane, and it's all over the place. We take that Myers cocktail, use it as a base, and heap other ingredients onto it. And we have a number of intravenous formulas that will achieve a goal. We have some pretty cool names with them too. The Big Chill, it's a Myers cocktail plus relaxation formula. So if you're looking for a sense of calmness and well-being, and you have a lot of anxiety, the Big Chill is something for you. We have a formula called the Blues Unraveler. We have a specific vitamin blend there, which boosts norepinephrine, which makes you feel upbeat and like getting off the couch and going for a run and just shaking the blues off. We have another formula called Dr. Feelgood. It's for anyone who's feeling run down or fatigued or exhausted. We have another formula called the Rocket Man, which is works on kind of ACE inhibitors. It's a immune boosting, makes you immune to all the earthly things that ail us, hence the term Rocket Man. You're ready to blast off and conquer the world. And we've got a high vitamin C formula, Do-Si-Do, we call it. We have another formula that specifically works for mental functioning. It's for mental fatigue. If you're having school or work exams or any important meetings or presentations that you need to do, increase your focus. It's called Ivy League. So we've got these great formulas. The last one I'll talk about is what we call the IV of the Tiger. And this is we created this IV with 5 goals in mind: to rehydrate you, to increase ATP production, which is like the energy cell of the energy powerhouse of all the cells in your body. It boosts your body's production of growth hormone from the pituitary gland. It helps you recover, so bigger, stronger, faster. And it's also to combat soreness and fatigue. So think Eye of the Tiger, IV of the Tiger. So we've got some pretty exciting formulas, and you come on in, we do a consult, and we look at what your goals are, what's currently going on. And we treat you accordingly. Every patient is different. I get a lot of patients that are coming in now that say, my normal doctor just doesn't listen to me. And we're a wellness center, and that begins and ends with listening to the patient. And, another phenomenon we're seeing now is patients that are getting turned away from their current practitioner because they're not vaccinated. We've got a number of calls in the last few weeks, patients saying, I need to look for a new primary care provider. My doctor told me if I don't get vaccinated, I can't see them anymore. And I thought that was unconscionable.
Chris McKinley is with us here this morning, a physician's assistant over at Trinity Wellness Center, Waterford. Their website is twcwaterford.com. If you'd like to know more information about what they do, why they do it, along with some of the things Chris had mentioned, and this idea of personal care. It seems and we highlight this outside of the medical world, but I guess this is included in the general conversation. It seems as if there's a divide right now, and I may sound like beating a dead horse, that there's this divide that we need to, collectively put everyone into the same group and, conduct business accordingly, rather than this idea of personal care, that every individual is different. And not to say that's happening, in the medical field these days, but from what you're describing there is that, people don't feel that they're getting the care based on the system. You go to the doctor and you maybe see the doctor for, generally you go your annual physical, you see the doctor for 3 minutes, 5 minutes. It's all the other people doing the legwork. They come in, read the chart, and that's pretty much the only contact you have. That's why, this idea of primary care physicians has kind of popped up and has become more popular for people that go to a subscription sort of based way of healthcare, where they have constant contact with the medical professional that oversees their health and wellness. Why is it? Why have we transformed into a society that wants to think collectively rather than individually?
That's a really good question. I think medicine has become a monetized machine, and everyone wants to make money. Hospital systems need to be in the black and not in the red. But I think what you see now is that that model has now carried over into smaller practices and private practices, or private practices that are aligned with the big medical groups. You're very correct. Joe, you come into a doctor's office, you'll talk to the doctor for 5 minutes. Your total time there is with a practitioner is probably 10 or 15 minutes, but you spend 45 minutes in the waiting room. So you're there for at least an hour, and you've only talked to a medical professional for maybe 10 minutes, maybe. So our experience is different. We've got a very spa-like feel. You come in, you're greeted with this wonderful, soothing music. The lobby has bright colors, wonderful artwork. Star will greet you at the front desk. That's Star with one R. She is an amazing person. You can just feel her spirit when you come through the front door. We have a wonderful nurse named Sarah, and Sarah has so much experience. She worked in hospital-based medicine. She was also worked at UNCW in the health department there as the lead nurse. We've got a wonderful nurse practitioner named Jenna, and myself, and it's all backed by 20 plus years of medical experience from psychiatry and wellness from Dr. Matthew, Dr. Rano Thomas Matthew, or Tom, or Dr. Matthew with one T and no S. Everyone likes to say Matthews is pretty common, but it's Matthew with one T and no S. I feel very, very lucky to have him as our Yoda for this practice. And when Tom and I founded Trinity Wellness, we wanted to do something that was unique and different and truly, truly getting to the root of people's issues, and not just medication. We have medication there and we use it, but we want to get to the reason why you need that medication in the first place. And like I said before, that may not happen immediately, but that's our goal. So I think we have a personalized touch to medicine, and you will not wait in our lobby for 25, 35, 45 minutes. I guarantee you that.
Chris McKinley with us here this morning of Trinity Wellness Center, Waterford. Again, twcwaterford.com, their website. Chris, last time you came in, we talked a lot about COVID, the different therapeutics, things we can be doing, as far as preventative measures to help bolster our immune system. Immediately afterwards, I took my 4-year-old as of today, her birthday today. Happy birthday to little Sophia, 4 years old. I took her out to go drink out of the garden hose and play in some dirt, and we made a bunch of mud pies after you joined us last time, so we could bolster our immune system.
That's
we
right.
call her the Cabbage Patch, the Garbage Pail Kid. I caught an article at abcnews.com of all places concerning COVID and how the definition of success has changed in COVID fight. That was the headline of the article. And it then went on to talk with various doctors across the country and how, well, they admittedly now say that no vaccine is 100% effective at preventing infection. And we've moved the goalposts so far to create sort of this level of hysteria and fear that while these vaccines, yes, are highly protective against severe illness, that right now the message to the people should be, let's focus less on cases and let's focus more on how many people are being hospitalized or dying. And my thought when I read this article 2 years into this sort of situation is, well, why, after 15 days to flatten the curve, weren't we thinking about this sort of line of thought as compared to where we were? Because I can recall day after day, the graphics on all of the media outlets was, total cases. So we went through that first wave, it settled down. Now we had another one just recently pass kind of through our area and much of the state with, cases showing a downward trend along with hospitalizations and death. And that's not to make light of anyone who had to deal with a tragic situation from all of this. It's why have we focused and moved the goalposts throughout the entire duration of these 2 years? So what was the purpose of that?
That's a really good question. I think that as the virus was bestowed upon us, by a laboratory in China, I think that we didn't know what we didn't know. And at first it was ventilators were the thing. Now ventilators are like a last resort. And statistically, when people are placed on a ventilator, that's usually the end of the road for them, unfortunately. We've seen massive spikes in deaths in countries that have instituted the vaccine, which is an interesting graph. I think as the initially looking back now, what we should have done is saved vaccinations for the very sick or the very old and let younger, healthier people that had robust immune systems that weren't immune degraded from a health issue or a medication to let it play out. I think there was a lot of hype early on with the virus. It was a very real virus with very, very real hype, unfortunately. So I just think we didn't know what we didn't know at that point in time. And, in hindsight, we can look back now and armchair quarterback the whole event and say that we should, like I said, we should have just vaccinated the very vulnerable due to immune issues and the very old. I can say now that I'm seeing a lot of patients in my office and at the hospital that have new onset altered mental status. Meaning they have no psychiatric history, but now they're confused and they have no memory and they're depressed and they had a stroke or they had a blood clot. And we can attribute that to two things, basically. They were medically compromised and they had COVID and it affected them more than the average person or a healthy person, or they got vaccinated and the vaccine caused this, that, and the other thing. And I think that cat is slowly getting, coming out of the bag. And once that's out, we can't put it back in. And we're seeing more and more people kind of realize that this is a problem.
Chris McKinley with us once again, a physician's assistant with Trinity Wellness Center, Waterford at twcwaterford.com. If you'd like to know more about what the witch doctor and his folks over in Waterford do day to day, I got a text message about the witch doctor himself, who's sitting across the window pane from me here this morning. That's a fitting workout name for yourself, Chris, getting to know you over the last couple of years.
So Joe's referring to I belong to a men's basically accountability, and it's called F3. It stands for fitness, faith, and fellowship. It's a men's accountability fellowship group, and we work out all over the city. There's different places to post, we call it, and get a workout in, but everyone gets a nickname. And at the time when I joined up, I was going back and forth to the west coast of Africa. I was working for an international company there, and I was a director of medical operations and director of logistics, VP of operations, if you will. So when I came back and explained to people my first day of the workout what I was doing in Africa, doing medicine, it was kind of a natural thing for them to assess me with the name witch doctor. I think it's pretty cool. And, witch doctors back in the day were, kind of loved or hated. I mean, I would say mostly hated. They had non-traditional ways of making people better. And I think I'm seeing that needle point in that direction today. People are looking to go back to sensible treatment for healthcare. You know, and then, like I said, that doesn't always involve a medication. You know, sometimes better living through modern chemistry means let's take vitamins and minerals and other substances that we get from nature, let's heighten them, let's intensify them, and give them back to our bodies and affect a healing process. That's essentially what it is. And, you know, before I talked about, because I'm a big data guy, I like to back up my data, I talked about, you know, countries that saw a huge spike in death rate after they instituted the COVID vaccine, like a massive spike. So go to Johns Hopkins University Coronavirus Resource Center. Just Google that, Johns Hopkins University Coronavirus Resource Center, and you'll find that information there. It's quite interesting. You know, so the other amazing thing we think about is pharmaceutical companies have carte blanche when it comes to vaccines. In 1986, our own judicial system in Congress voted to give pharmaceutical companies carte blanche with vaccination. So it's the holy grail of drugs for them. They can't be sued, they can't be prosecuted. So when you realize that, it's not a far stretch to wonder why they're pushing these vaccinations nonstop for everybody.
Once again, we're with Chris McKinley, a retired Navy SEAL and a member of Trinity Wellness Center Waterford. He serves as a physician's assistant over across the bridge in Brunswick County. Chris, from your medical cap to another cap you once wore that, originally brought you in a couple of weeks back was the whole situation with the withdrawal in Afghanistan. We heard from two of the top generals and the Joint Chiefs of Staff yesterday, the Secretary of Defense. They were pushed with questions surrounding the withdrawal. We had folks calling for groups of people to come together and look at what's been going on for the last 20 years in Afghanistan. I would say that probably should have been going on in real time, assessing the situation on the ground, getting reports, and moving accordingly. It seems as if that wasn't the case up in Washington, D.C. To no surprise. We find out that there were some recommendations made by the generals that were not taken up by the president as far as keeping some sort of presence there. I think originally that was kind of everyone's look at it, particularly those who have served in combat situations in that region of the country. Why would we pull the troops before we evacuated all the necessary civilian personnel there, with the military being the last to leave? I don't know if we got questions or responses to that sort of question yesterday. But a couple of things came to mind when they were talking was that the generals admitted that, now terrorists in Afghanistan could and likely will have the ability to attack us again within a 12 to 36-month period. That was said by General Milley. And now you hear and you think 20 years. You put time in over there. I was 18 years old and know a lot of friends that signed up immediately after 9/11. You think, well, what the hell? We've been there for 20 years when we give the country back to the people there. And in 12 months, we could be dealing with another scenario where our nation is on the cusp of dealing with a potential attack on the homeland. That's right. A lot of money, a lot of sacrifice. And in 12 months after 20 years, we could be dealing with a 9/11 type situation. I mean, that does not instill confidence in the ability to lead, whether militarily, politically, to me at least, as just one pawn in this whole big game we're playing.
And now they have $85+ billion worth of our equipment, very capable, very cutting edge equipment, in order to wreak havoc on us here and over there. So it's really sad. And Milley is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That is the highest ranking military officer in the United States. But in 1950, that position became an advisory role to the president. General Milley does not institute and initiate military operations. His underlings, 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars underneath him, do that. They give him information. The information comes up to him. He delivers that information to the president. So when the president was making those statements in August saying that we were doing this, that, and the other thing, and everything was wonderful and amazing and rainbows and unicorns, was he willfully disregarding what General Milley was saying, or was General Milley feeding him out-and-out lies? And that's what we're trying to figure out today. General Milley, I have quite a few friends that have served directly underneath him in pretty high positions. And from what I understand, they basically call him the Kraken. He will do anything and everything to preserve his career, to increase his rank, and solidify his position in the national government. Some people say that he's more political than Nancy Pelosi is, or other, senators, or so on and so forth. So, in judging from what we've all seen, it's easy to believe that. So, hopefully he'll be held accountable. And, recently a Marine colonel tried to hold him accountable and everyone accountable involved in that situation. This is Lieutenant Colonel Scheller. He was taken to the brig yesterday for violating a gag order that was put on him. And there's an organization that's run by Eddie Gallagher, a friend of mine who's a former Navy SEAL who spent almost a year in the brig, too, for that one event where they said he stabbed a Taliban prisoner in the neck and killed him. He was obviously vindicated for that. It was untrue, and now he's coming after the Navy and people that told that lie. But he's got an organization called Pipe Hitter Foundation. Pipe Hitter Foundation. Check that out. They support veterans that are besieged or active duty military members that are besieged, and this Lieutenant Colonel Scheller is one of those people right now. So,
Chris,
a lot going on, Joe.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I know you don't want to get into all the intricacies of that, and I get it. Let's continue to focus on what your focus is on now, and that's the world of health and health and wellness in the medical field.
Thank you, Joe. I feel super privileged to be in Southeast North Carolina doing this. This is the greatest part of the state, in my opinion. We've got wonderful beaches, the water, the weather's amazing. The people here are wonderful. People don't realize we have over 17,000, almost 18,000 veterans right now in this area. And I want all veterans out there that are listening to, if you're depressed, if you're anxious, if you truly, truly feel that you need help, call our office, make an appointment, 910-769-5004. Make an appointment, come in and talk to me. There's a lot of things that go unspoken. I've been there. I've done that. I've been boots on the ground and anywhere that ends in Stan, all over Africa, Eastern Europe, even in the Philippines. My country has sent me all over the world to battle radical Islamic terrorism. And I've done that very successfully with a lot of very good men and women making up a team of dedicated professionals to protect the United States of America. And I swore an oath to protect the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And the way I look at that now is I want to keep all my veterans healthy and capable. I don't want to be gloom and doom, but there's a part of me that says that there's stuff coming on our soil here. Look at everyone we've just let in from Afghanistan that were unvetted. All these people under a bridge in Texas that are now gone. Where are they? So, please come on in, talk to me. Let's get you on the fast track back to good physical health and mental health. Veterans out there, and Joe Civilian too. Everyone needs to be healthy and happy and capable in these times ahead.
This is why Chris McKinley is back by popular demand for some of the insight he's been able to provide over the last half hour over at the Trinity Wellness Center, Waterford. TWCWaterford.com is their website. Chris, it's a pleasure, my man, as
Joe,
always.
Thank you. Do I have 10 seconds?
Sure.
And I am running an IV on you before I leave. Joe is going to get an IV in the studio. He is not going to escape this. But I wanted to just finish with one thing. Obviously, when you guys listen to me on the radio, you can tell where my political needle swings to. That being said, we've forgotten the greatest thing about America is that we should and can argue, and we should disagree. But in order to disagree, when you're disagreeing, maybe you see 30% of what I'm saying and I see 30% of what you're saying, and we agree upon it, and now we're closer to a compromise. And at the end of the day, if China attacks us, if another country attacks us, I'm giving you a gun, you're going to give me a gun, we're going to share our bullets, we're going to crush the enemy, and then we're going to go back to arguing with each other. That's the way America has always been. You think everyone who raised that flag on Mount Suribachi and Iwo Jima was a Republican or a Democrat, or they were all one political party? I highly doubt that. So that's what we need to remember as Americans, that we, at the end of any day, it's all about America, and we need to protect each other and defend each other and support each other.
Amen.
And, yes.
Chris, thanks a lot, man. That's my good buddy Chris McKinley with us here this morning on the Big Talker FM.
Digging you to touch and go. Hey, this is Matt Ham, co-founder of Uprint and the co-host of Wake Up Our Faith, every Saturday and Sunday right here in Wilmington's Big Talker. We invite you to join with our nonprofit movement by participating in the Portable Faith Community. This is a $10 a month tax-deductible contribution, and you get access to daily encouragement, resources, as well as our prayer community. You can go to wakeupmyfaith.com to get subscribed and learn more. That's wakeupmyfaith.com.
Besides my involvement in product recovery, I'm also in the construction business. I say that to say this. When we have tropical storms or hurricanes, the real hard, difficult, expensive, and dangerous work is usually the result of trees falling on homes or other personal property. Hurricane season is not the only time to get prepared for this. As a matter of fact, it's before and after hurricane season that you need to get prepared. My son Chris started his tree business called Climb Pro Expert Tree Care after Hurricane Florence. Chris has all the equipment and manpower to take on even the most challenging jobs. With over 20 years of combined experience, Climb Pro LLC can safely remove any unwanted hazardous trees from your property. They also offer tree pruning, elevation, deadwood removal, and other expert tree care services. Don't wait until you have a tree emergency. Visit climbpro.com, that's climb with a K. Check them out on Facebook or call Chris Markley at 910-540-5249. Mention this ad for a 10% discount.
Tune in on Friday mornings to hear The Construction Connection, a collaborative effort between Joe Catenacci with the Big Talker FM and Cameron Moore, the executive officer of the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association. You start the conversation and we bring you the answers as we take a regional, in-depth look at growth-related topics and issues centered around the residential and commercial development and building industry. The Construction Connection, Friday mornings on the Big Talker FM.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is sounding an urgent call for Congress to raise the U.S. government's borrowing limit a day after Senate Republicans blocked consideration of a bill that would have done so. Yellen testified before a Senate committee at a hearing yesterday to update Congress on the impact of the vast financial support programs the government enacted after the viral pandemic paralyzed the economy 18 months ago. If the debt limit isn't raised, Yellen says, the country would likely face a financial crisis and economic recession. The U.S. Secretary of Defense and top military leaders testifying publicly yesterday for the first time since the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan and the suicide bombings that killed 13 U.S. troops and dozens of Afghans. The Pentagon leaders defended the decision to leave at the end of last month, saying staying longer would have put U.S. personnel at greater risk. But Generals Mark Milley and Frank McKenzie testified they advised both former President Trump and President Biden that the military should have kept a presence on the ground. An arrest has been made in a fatal hit-and-run on Carolina Beach Road on September 19th that killed Ahmaud Brown. The State Highway Patrol arresting 22-year-old Adam Marshall of Wilmington, charging him with felonious hit-and-run resulting in death. Additional charges are likely. Anyone who had contact with Marshall on Saturday, September 18th in the Carolina Beach area should contact Highway Patrol. And new hurricane sensor technology is now ready to deploy if a storm comes our way. Beach Access Number 2 in Wrightsville Beach is one of the locations chosen to place a temporary sensor if necessary. The sensors are installed 2 to 3 days before a hurricane makes landfall and are removed when conditions improve. Spencer Rogers with North Carolina Sea Grant says the technology will provide data for better storm prep in the future. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Well, it's going to be another pleasant day from start to finish across the Cape Fear. We're expecting temperatures, though, to be above the average. Inland of the coast, we're going to be jumping into the middle and upper 80s. Along the immediate coastline, we're topping off in the low to middle 80s, but expect lots of sunshine, and the quiet weather will continue. We do have a cold front that's on the way later this evening, and our temperatures tonight are only going to fall down into the middle and the upper 60s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Hey, I'm Yael Osowski.
And I'm David Clement.
We're the host of Consumer Choice Radio, broadcasting every Saturday at 10 a.m. here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Consumer Choice Radio is a weekly conversation featuring the latest news, interviews, and expert analysis that covers consumer topics from around the world.
ConsumerChoiceRadio.com.
I am State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better place. Visit us online at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
How far would you go if you had a group of strong, amazing people who support, motivate, and inspire one another to achieve their fitness goals and dreams? At Full Circle Fitness, we aren't just a place to work out. We're a community of amazing people who work together to reclaim our bodies and do things we thought we'd never be able to do again. Ready to set your fears aside and stop making excuses? Call today, Full Circle Fitness, 910-399-8350, or visit FullCircleFitnessNC.com.
I took a walk around the world to ease my troubled mind. I left my body lying somewhere in the sands of time. But I watched the world float to the dark side of the moon. I feel there's nothing I can do.
All right, as we move through the second half of our program now, third quarter of play is underway here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM. We thank Chris McKinley for stopping by in the last segment. And as we move forward, our good buddy Kenny Shue joins us once again, author of An Inconvenient Minority. Also, president of the organization known as Color Us United, which advocates for a colorblind society. Kenny, it's a pleasure, my friend, as always. Good morning and welcome back.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me again.
And it's great to have you with us. I think you provide some great insight and perspective on many of the different issues that we face as a society today, given the narrative and sort of the agenda that's been laid out for us by those in the media and those with a megaphone. Obviously, over the last several months, we've been highlighting the fact that, for all intents and purposes, the current administration in Washington has sort of ignored certain situations, particularly along our southern border, and that kind of came to last week, the week prior, regarding 30,000, who knows how many illegal migrants were able to make their way into the country. They started to pile up in mass near what is known as the International Bridge in Del Rio. And as someone who comes from a family of immigrants, as you do, a lot of people have a lot of questions about where we are in terms of immigration these days. Everyone in Washington will love to point the finger at one another, saying, you're doing nothing, you're kicking the can down the road, we need to do something about it. Yet for generations, nothing is being done. In your mind, why does this White House and the administration seem to be favoring some of the unskilled migrants that are coming into the country, in many cases unvetted, given three squares a day, airplane ticket, a bus ride to a destination of their choice, though the high-achieving immigrants, such as those from your family and mine, that came here legally, spent tens of thousands of dollars in the process of doing so, seem to get no attention paid to them and their needs in our society. Why is that?
Well, it's because the administration does not care about minorities per se. And this is a common thread about progressivism. Progressives do not care about minorities. They care about minority victimhood. And the more that they can enhance the victimhood narrative through things like, separation of people based on status, based on race, ethnicity, national origin, everything like that, the more they can sort of enhance their voting bloc, because identity politics is very powerful for minorities. People look at their race and they say, well, it looks like we need a coalition of people of my same race because of various victimhood narratives that have been percolating in our society. What people forget is the American dream, the idea that if you come to this country legally, you work hard, you don't commit crime, you can have a shot at success in this country because you'll be treated on the basis of your work, not on the basis of your background. So it's basically a faithlessness in America and a relegation into identity politics.
And it seems as if everywhere we go, we can't get away from this sort of narrative and we've strayed away. I mean, just 50 years ago, a little longer than that, maybe now 70 years or so, there was a movement that was based on this idea that it's not about the color of your skin, it's about the content of your character. And for generations and decades, that kind of was instilled in many of us in the way we look at people who may not look like us or do what we do or eat the same food we eat. How have we got to a point where we've sort of reverted back to a time before that?
You have to look at the elite progressive institutions that have been working within our culture for the last 50 years. I'm talking Harvard University. That's the subject of my book, An Inconvenient Minority. You have these Asian Americans who are an inconvenient minority because they're a minority who's successful in this country. They break the left narrative of racial victimhood. They are now being suppressed by the left for their excellence. Harvard University actually discriminates against Asian Americans. They require them to get 440 points higher in the SAT to have the same chance of admission as a black person. And what this shows, and Harvard also was the progenitor, by the way, of critical race theory. They were the ones who made the idea that it's better to manage groups, racial groups, than it is to manage individuals. And so you have to look at the way that progressivism has progressed in the last 50 years, particularly elite progressivism. They don't view people as individuals. They view people as parts of groups, racial groups specifically, that they can manage, that they can sort of bring under control, that they can herd like sheep.
Kenny Xu is with us once again, author of An Inconvenient Minority, just kind of laying, of course, the inspiration behind his book, along with what we've been seeing happen in real time right now, given access to this country that's been given to, Kenny, over 1 million people that we know about so far through the southern border, all the different things that are being discussed in Washington to expand, this welfare state, so to speak, and get more people dependent on, big centralized government as compared to the ways in which, many people have lived and have set the pathway before us, including, members of our own family and who have very passionate thoughts and beliefs as to what they see as compared to what they experienced back in their day when they were coming up and trying to make their bones, so to speak. Kenny, when we look at college campuses, because you brought up Harvard, I caught a recent study that showed, or a survey, I should say, that talked with thousands of college students across dozens of campuses throughout America. And the results of that survey, pretty telling. 82% of college kids don't feel comfortable right now expressing their viewpoints on, the many different topics that are up for debate, within these places of quote unquote higher learning. Why is that such a concerning issue to parents, to our society as a whole, when you've got 8 out of 10 college students who say they feel uncomfortable sharing their opinion on a campus and an educational institution that is supposed to be there to encourage this sort of debate and this sort of civic discourse?
Well, I'm not surprised. I went to Davidson College in Charlotte, North Carolina, and that campus, I'm telling you, I see exactly how it goes on. They will consistently bludgeon you with one progressive point of view from freshman year to senior year, in emails, in diversity seminars, in protests. Davidson College just built a pyramid to Black Lives Matter, for goodness sakes, on their campus. They spent, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to make that mural. And basically, the impression that you get is they will say, oh, you have the right to say whatever you want. But in these kinds of campuses, the culture is so chilling because the mindset from the messaging from the administration is so one-sided that if you feel like you even want to attempt to speak up, you're going to face great social pressure to back down. So this is the kind of this is what's going on in college campuses right now. This is why we have to protect intellectual diversity on campuses. This is why we have to push both sides of the opinion.
Well, with that said,
and separate facts of opinion.
With that said, when it comes to parents and others who are starting to navigate that world with children that are coming up, whether it be through middle school or setting their sights on opportunities elsewhere after earning a high school diploma, what sort of your advice, given your experiences, given your research into many of these places, why would I go invest tens of thousands of dollars in my kids' quote unquote education if they're just going to come back a shell of what I spent my entire lifetime to help build as far as a foundation goes as to what they believe and why they believe it?
I would say make sure to steer your kid to a conservative club or a conservative institution. Make sure to steer your kid towards a church that is around the area. College still has signaling value in this culture, in this country. I'm not going to deny that. It's certainly not for everybody. But definitely try to steer your kid towards an organization, or if you can't find one in your college campus, maybe that speaks to the character of the college. I started a Young Americans for Freedom chapter at Davidson College, and that became a home where I could develop my sort of political identity and learn to disagree respectfully. I think that's the huge problem that's going on in our culture right now. People have, if you just even express a differing viewpoint, people are going to call you racist. This racist is a term that people now use as a political cudgel to get people to shut up. As president of Color Us United, where we fight for a race-blind society, I've been called racist just for arguing for color blindness, just for arguing that we shouldn't see race. People have called me racist. But if you go to colorusunited.org, you can see that that's exactly not what we believe. We're fighting racism, and we're fighting racism disguised as anti-racism, racism of the identity politics variety that treats people and assumes things about people just on the basis of race rather than as an individual.
Kenny Xu, once again with us, author of An Inconvenient Minority. Learn more about what he does and why he does it as part of his organization, Color Us United. Kenny, you always provide some great insight, and I know you've enjoyed some success with, of course, the promotion and the sale of your book, and we support everything and anything you do based on some of the feedback that we hear and insight you provide not only on this program but all the other news outlets that you've appeared on since your book release. And let's continue to keep pushing this conversation forward because at the end of the day, it's people like you, young folks like myself, younger, I should say, that need to carry the torch that's been laid out in front of us by our families, the generations that have come before us that set us on this unique route as a country of a melting pot of people. And we need to get back to this idea of it's not about what you look like, it's about what's inside and how you can carry yourself day to day. Let's keep spreading that message to anyone and everyone who will lend an ear to it. Thanks again.
Thanks, Joe. That means a lot. Thanks.
That's Kenny Xu, once again, author of An Inconvenient Minority, sharing some insight as to why he believes all those in Washington, particularly this administration, are in favor of giving a leg up and rolling out the red carpet to many, seeking greener pastures, never seem to want to make the necessary adjustments to the policies that have led to this broken immigration system. Yet the high-achieving folks that have come here legally, they seem to be left in the dust as this broader conversation continues as to where we're headed to in the future, not only for us over the next 10, 20, 30 years, but our children and our children's children. We'll be back.
Here's 1 minute of tree knowledge in 30 seconds with K.O. Davis.
It's important that you have somebody, a trained professional, to trim your trees. There are these guys out there that just hack trees, and that's the worst thing in the world that you can do. Don't let somebody hat rack your trees. That's a tree term for hat rack. You know how they just cut a tree and it looks like it's just got like a hat rack? These guys just go up and just cut the trees off, and they don't cut it back to the proper spot. Call us, because we care about your trees.
Visit KO's coasttocoasttree.com.
Don't let some yahoo hat rack your trees.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
I'm Rob Renz, Marine Corps veteran, entrepreneur, and local business owner. Join me and my buddies on Monday from 6 to 7 for Signal Fire Radio, where we discuss how to successfully transition from the military and become a signal fire in your community. That's Signal Fire Radio, Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. on 106.7 The Big Talk.
In this corner, bugs. Every creepy, crawly pest that lurks in your home. And in this corner, Bug-No Pest and Termite Control. That's Mr. Bug-No to you, pal. If you have unwanted pests, let Bug-No Pest and Termite Control take the fight to them. Bug-No Pest and Termite Control is a family-owned and operated business, fully licensed and insured, and can handle all of your residential and commercial pest and termite control needs. Rated 5 stars on Angie's List and HomeAdvisor.com. Call 910-367-2501 to give bugs a knockout.
No fighting. We got the refugees. No fighting. No fighting. Shakira, Shakira. I never really knew that she could dance like this. She make a man wanna speak Spanish. Como se llama? Bonita. Shakira, Shakira.
All right, as we move up towards the top of the hour, we thank our guy Kenny Shoe and Chris McKinley for joining us in the past hour. Hope you've enjoyed the conversation. Of course, if you'd like to contribute, you can do so at 910-299-7535. Getting an update from my buddy who's been stuck in Jamaica for the last 3 days in quarantine because as he was getting his COVID test to come back to the States, he popped for a positive test. His wife negative. His wife came back Monday. He's now been in quarantine for the last 3 days, vaccinated, still no symptoms, still feeling great in, I won't say a padded room, but, a room where he gets, just a couple of hours of sunshine a day while he's on the island nation and on a resort. He gets the cheap room all the way in the back, the quarantine COVID, wing of the resort where he's been staying at for the last few days. He's trying to keep his mind in the right place, so did a little yoga yesterday, a little meditation, catching up on some reading. And really, what blows his mind is the fact that there's no clear plan or approach on how to treat people who test positive for COVID. Now, months and months into, reopening travel internationally from the States elsewhere around the world. And the complete chaos that has ensued over the last few days when it comes to getting retested and having to quarantine for 10 days, according to the U.S. Embassy. Apparently now he's getting word that he'll be tested every 3 days until a negative test is achieved, and once the negative test is achieved, he'll be released from his cell and allowed to fly home. So again, that's the mind-blowing part right now of traveling, particularly internationally. You get a COVID positive test, you're vaccinated, you feel fine, you're asymptomatic, and you still have to quarantine for 10 days, and you can't come back to the country. Yesterday, we had a caller who wanted to get some insight on a conversation we had with Commissioner Zappel. And apologies if I sounded a little short and combative in the caller who was seeking additional information. I could have been gracious and more polite, but we spent a lot of time helping promote the different venues that you can consume this information from day to day. And ultimately, that helps us. When you go to our different platforms, we're able to monitor that sort of stuff. So that when we're sitting across the table from a potential advertiser, a sponsor, a partner of our program, we're able to show, people listen, not only spend a long time listening to our show day to day and the rest of our station, but then when they're seeking additional information, look, they go to these other platforms that we spend a lot of time promoting, whether it be my website at joekatz.com, bigtalkerfm.com, so on and so forth, our Facebook and our YouTube pages. So if you've got a question or you want to listen back to something that you may have missed, you can do so through those various platforms. You can also shoot me a quick email or slide into our direct messages on Facebook. And if you need a recording or a recap, shoot us a message. I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible and make it happen. But I wanted to play the clip that the caller had wanted yesterday that I did not have at my disposal. So without further ado, let's listen to Commissioner Zappel, who had some thoughts on some of the additional therapeutics that are now being offered throughout the area in terms of COVID.
Joe, before I lose you there,
Sure.
There was one thing, back on we were talking about the hospital and what's been happening with the COVID. I remember distinctly at the last time I was on, we just were talking briefly at the very end about monoclonal antibody treatment.
Yes, we were.
And earlier this month, the governor, Cooper, came into town with Mandy Cohen, the head of our North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, to put a spotlight on those treatments here over at the Cape Fear Clinic. And I think opened the eyes of a lot of people in our community, myself as well, to show that we have millions of doses of this sitting here at the state and making it available here to our local area. For those of you unfamiliar with it, this is an infusion treatment that when taken can relieve or eliminate the effects of COVID. The interesting thing is that Dr. Cohen said very strongly and very loudly that this could be used as a prophylaxis, meaning that if you are in an area where you come in contact with somebody who has COVID, before you have symptoms, before you start feeling lousy, you can take this infusion that will prevent you from getting the symptoms. And the real goal here is keeping people out of the hospital. This treatment is available at the Cape Fear Clinic. There's no insurance required, and there is no ability to pay. You can go down there, you pick up the phone, make an appointment, and you're there. I found it interesting that within several hours after that press conference there, where both the governor and Mandy Cohen spoke about this, both Novant and Wilmington Health Associates came forward with their own press announcement saying, yes, of course, we have infusion treatment centers as well. And the question was asked, well, gee, why did we not know about this? There are more restrictions around that. It needs to be a provider prescribing it there, and at least as of 2 weeks ago, they were also requiring that you have a positive COVID test. That is not the case at the Cape Fear Clinic, where you can step in and do that. So what I see is the community conversation surrounding monoclonal antibody treatment has really been started and engaging, and I think this is a really positive other treatment that we have, so that we can keep people out of the hospital, which is really our goal.
Keeping Holden Beach informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Tell me why Relief Factor is so successful in lowering or eliminating pain. I'm often asked that question. Pete and Seth Talbot, the father and son founders of Relief Factor, tell me they believe our bodies were designed to heal. The doctors who formulated Relief Factor selected the 4 best ingredients, 100% drug-free ingredients that each help your body deal with inflammation. Order the 3-week quick start now. Discount it to only $19.95 to see if it will work for you too. Call 800-500-8384. ReliefFactor.com.
The United States has killed Osama bin Laden.
Hours after that announcement, the White House leaked that it was SEAL Team 6 that carried out the operation. Al-Qaeda placed bounties on the heads of all Navy SEALs. Then just 3 months later, a U.S. Army helicopter carrying many from SEAL Team 6 and others.
Anybody out there? We have a fallen angel. A fallen angel. Roger.
Fallen Angel, Extortion 17. The story most Americans don't know. Watch exclusively at salemnow.com.
The newly installed chief of the U.S. Capitol Police says they are seeing an historically high number of threats against lawmakers. Chief Tom Manger says it's been 6 months since the attack on the Capitol, and his officers cannot afford to be complacent.
You can never let your guard down, and as well protected as this facility is, this complex is, as well protected as the members are. Again, it only takes one person, and so you've got to be on your guard at all times.
Manger says going forward, every demonstration in D.C. will have different security.
We're not going to put the fence up every time we have a large demonstration. It's really going to depend on the intelligence we have beforehand. It's going to depend on the potential for violence at a particular demonstration.
The Capitol Police protect the Capitol grounds and the people inside the building, and that includes all lawmakers as well as staff. News and analysis at townhall.com. Consumer confidence continues to slide.
Consumer confidence declined for the third straight month in September, due in part to ongoing worries about the rapidly spreading Delta variant. The Conference Board reports that its consumer confidence index fell about 6 points in the last month. September's reading is the lowest level for the index since February. As for how consumers feel about what's going on now and expectations for the future, that also continued to sag as intentions for spending on big items like homes, autos, and major appliances all retreated again. Shelley Adler, Washington.
An Australian wildlife tour operator says he was lucky to escape more serious injury when a crocodile lunged from a river and clamped his hand in its jaws. Sean Dearly tried to retrieve a pole he had dropped overboard just after telling tourists on his cruise to keep their bodies inside the boat at all times. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
Moving into our third and final hour of the program, we're back better than ever, literally, in every sense of that word, back and better than ever over the last 25 or so minutes while we were talking with Kenny and moving through the final portion of the previous hour. Well, physician's assistant Chris McKinley had me hooked up to a hydration IV, so I've got massive vitamin C, zinc, B12 moving through the veins this morning. Might have been a first, getting a hydration IV while conducting an interview over the radio. We may have to streamline this sort of thing maybe once every couple of weeks, given, the juices that are flowing through my body right now. Boy, do I feel jacked up today. And this is supposed to carry on for the next several hours, so long as I continue to hydrate and do what I need to do to keep my body up and running. I don't know how I'm going to sit here for the next couple of hours. I just want to jump up and run around, maybe do some flights of stairs up and down the Murchison building with two shows that we'll be producing after 10 o'clock this morning. Of course, Wake Up Our Faith with Matt Ham and Kevin Adams. They get underway around 11 o'clock this morning. They'll be broadcasting through our Facebook page, on their social media platforms as well. And then following their show at 12:30, the lovely ladies of Just Think the podcast will be taking over our studios, commandeering the Big Talker studios to produce their latest edition of the popular local podcast that is getting all sorts of rave reviews through the different platforms that they offer through Just Think the podcast on Spotify, Apple iTunes, or wherever you may tune in for your podcasting. Right now, Richard Battle with us of the Lone Star State, author of Navigating Life's Journey, Common Sense in Uncommon Times. And Richard joins us every week to provide us some timeless messages of proven principles to win the day. Richard, it's a pleasure, my friend. Last week, you were in Las Vegas. Where are you this morning?
Well, I'm in the beautiful state of Texas, and I would like to order one IV to go, please.
Well, and no doubt, particularly after you just spent the last week playing some, old man softball out in Vegas. How'd you fare with the two teams you were competing with?
Well, we played for 4 days, 10 games, ran and walked 32 miles, had 1 second place finish, and a great time.
Hey, with that said, when we talk about 4 days and 10 games, I mean, what do the legs feel like after that, given that you've, been run through a time or two?
Well, the one thing I like to do is cryotherapy, and that helps my legs and helps me get ready to play. So try that if you haven't.
Yeah, you got the little cryo frozen, deep freeze that you go into. I've tried it a time or two. I like the floating salt tanks that they've got offered at some of these different, wellness facilities that are sprouting up all over the country. The pod that you sit in, a little strange, but once you get used to it, man, I'll tell you, it does let you release and relax, no question.
Well, I have to tell you that I got to see some 85-plus-year-old guys play last week and heard that there were some 90-plus-year-old guys that were playing also. So that gives us all hope for long-term playing opportunities.
And that is what we call longevity and love for the game. I mean, at 90 years old, holy smokes. We, in fact, have a softball league here that has a portion of their league that I believe is 75 and older, and they play right by my park nearby my house Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is always fun to go see every once in a while. Hey, Richard, you come equipped with all sorts of different things that you want to talk about each week, and you had an idea earlier this week, and then you came back and said, look, what we see going on in Washington and across government is so, frankly, sickening and disheartening that we need to talk more about leadership and the proven principles and characteristics in our leaders that we don't see commonplace these days, particularly those coming from Washington, D.C. So let's talk about real leadership and how real leaders respond to the different challenges that they may face, whether it be in sports, government, or anywhere else.
Well, you're correct. And the reason that I want to hit this from different angles is people in their personal life, their families, their organizations, businesses, if they don't see or hear what the true integrity and principle leadership principles are, and if they think what they're seeing come out of these politicians is correct, then they're going to start mimicking those leadership traits wherever they are, and it's going to cause more problems in the real world. The politicians sometimes can get away with this stuff because they have a media that covers for it. But the one I want to hit this week is that real leaders respond rationally and calmly when they have a crisis, and they don't react emotionally. That's the topic of the day.
Well, when we talk about, emotions, it can drive you in many different ways. And the first thing as a response to something that may not go your way is to, in fact, react emotionally. So what can we do when we talk about the challenging times that one may face in life and business elsewhere, to let those emotions settle before, we go react to something that gets put on our plate?
Well, the emotional response is usually, in my opinion, a flight. And we'll talk in a minute about fight versus flight response because they feel a pressure. And it's an emotional, quick response to try to get rid of that pressure. Whereas good leaders, they can take that heat and respond in a calm, rational way and go through a decision process to overcome whatever that threat is. The emotional response creates fear and panic amongst the team because it gives a concern that the leader doesn't really have control of what's going on.
And, it's very easy in the good times, of course, to cover up, some of the weaknesses that you may have as a team, as a business, because when the good times are rolling, no one wants to identify, how we can, build up our weaknesses. So the next, gap or, cliff that we hit, we're best prepared. It seems as if we always want to ignore some of those weaknesses, when the good times are rolling. Why is that?
Well, exactly. And when you have an organization that's running well, then a lot of times the leaders getting out of the way is the best thing they can do, especially the weak leaders. And it's only when trouble shows up when you really see the difference between good leaders and poor leaders. And that's the time you've got to make a move with that poor leader. And if you don't, it's going to cause a successively catastrophic failure within an organization.
When we talk about the tough times that people face, what are the big differences when we look at quality leadership versus poor leadership?
Well, first thing is a good leader will acknowledge the news. When trouble shows up, they'll acknowledge it. They'll be calm, appear to be in control, and they will not snap to a judgment like we saw last week with the Border Patrol in Del Rio, where they were immediately convicted by the politicians before the evidence was thoroughly investigated. And a good leader will investigate the facts first. And during business career and other organizations that I've led, your people will be attacked by other folks, and you have to protect your people and at least show them that you will investigate and give them the benefit of the doubt before that you convict them and punish them. And so people who are attacking you want you to convict and punish right away, and you have to resist the urge to do that to get the pressure off of you.
Well, of course, as you said, maybe this a sign of poor and weak leadership, given that we often see knee-jerk reactions from our political officials, mainly those in Washington, based on a story that pops up in the news media and then gets spun out of complete control. You often see that we have to respond immediately and we have to quickly deflect. Rather than either own up or stand steadfast in decisions that were made with purpose.
Yes, absolutely. And when you throw one of your employees or a teammate under the bus, it not only demoralizes that person, it demoralizes everyone on your team, because they wonder, if someone comes after me, will my boss stand up for me or throw me under the bus right away as well? And so it demoralizes the team. And once the team's demoralized, that leader has very little, if any, opportunity to regain their credibility with the team.
Richard Battle with us here this morning, talking, the topic of leadership as compared to what we see, day to day, particularly from, many of our, government officials. And then, it goes down the list when it comes to, the things that you deal with professionally or personally in the home, and how you can, be a better leader of your unit, so to speak. Richard, before I let you go, what are some of the, time-tested ways in which, a true leader reacts when a challenge arrives?
Well, when getting the facts and preparing a response, the two most important principles I think to consider are precedent and example. Because if you don't consider those and you make a decision without that, what will happen is you'll have another incident at a later point, and you'll end up having to go through the same process or worse and change processes and policies because you didn't thoroughly consider the precedent of a decision or an example. And so if you do use precedent and example, you can make decisions that will stand the test of time and be able to be used repeatedly without management intervention.
Richard Battle with us once again, always providing timeless, positive messages of proven principles, helping people win every day. You can find out more about what he does and why he does it through his extensive book collection, including Navigating Life's Journey, Common Sense in Uncommon Times. You can learn more about what he does and why he does it at richardbattle.com. Richard, it's a pleasure as always, and thanks again.
Joe, thank you so much, and God bless America.
We're 18 minutes past the hour here on the Big Talker FM. Richard joins us again each week in this third and final hour of our show to talk about those timeless, positive messages that we all need to, engage upon given what we witness and see day to day and how we react, whether it be to the political news of the day, trying to stay informed and civically engaged, or the ways in which you can help improve your life and the ones closest to you in your everyday decisions, whether that be at work or at home. RichardBattle.com. Aim high, work hard, never quit. His motto that we try and live out each and every day here on the Big Talker FM. Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE-certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Hey, this is Matt Ham, co-founder of Uprint Faith and Personal Development. Join us for Wake Up Our Faith, a real conversation about living out your faith between Sundays, streaming live every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Catch the replay every Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM. Stop by and visit us on the web at uprint.life.
Hear Tom Goolsby on the Joe Catenacci Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
As Wilmington's leader in restorative and regenerative medicine, the Frank Institute specializes in health optimization. Simply put, we use in-depth evaluations and lab testing to determine the best treatments for each patient. So whether you're suffering from an unseen hormonal imbalance or a simple vitamin deficiency, the Frank Institute is ready to get you back to better living. Call us at 910-679-8534 or fill out our symptom survey online at frankinstitute.com. Because at the Frank Institute, you live, we help.
The Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association serves as the advocate for the building industry, advancing professionalism and promoting community involvement. We are a positive force for responsible growth while protecting property rights and the privilege of home ownership. 3 out of every 5 jobs is touched in some manner by construction in our region. Growth generates jobs, maintains our property values, and builds and updates our infrastructure. Join us Friday mornings for the Construction Connection with the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association and the Big Talker FM.
First things first, I'ma say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up and tired of the way that things have been. Oh, ooh, the way that things have been. Oh, ooh.
All right, 22 minutes past the hour. To round out the guest list this morning, Jessica Thompson, an attorney for the Pacific Legal Foundation, will talk about her latest fight in representing a local business or a business here in North Carolina, trying to push back against government overreach, as they often do at the Pacific Legal Foundation. Jessica had joined the show, last year, following Governor Cooper's decision to reopen the restaurants in the 11th hour, allowing wineries and breweries to join those restaurants in reopening, but leaving out certain private establishments in that decision. Jessica represented a business up in Greenville, a private bar that had remained shuttered while businesses like it were able to open, of course, albeit under certain, different sort of protocols that had to remain in place, but they opened. Private establishments remained closed. Jessica took that to the courts, and just as it looked like the judge was going to provide a big old fat L, a big old loss for the king of tyranny, well, then he jumps in front of a microphone and says private bars can open. Well, Jessica has taken up another case out of Farmville, North Carolina, that she'll tell you about here in about 20 minutes. Last night, the candidates for Wilmington City Council and the mayoral race met via a Zoom call put on by a number of different organizations in the area. Prior to jumping on the show, I tried to watch some of that back and forth, and well, I don't know how our kids did it over a 6-7 month period, getting behind a screen and trying to listen to their teacher and class interact with one another, because I could not watch more than 2 minutes of the discussion. It was just too far out there as far as alluring for myself. And granted, maybe it was 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was trying to get prepared for the show, but I was interested in what they were talking about as we've got these municipal elections coming up in November. And I just think about these Zoom meetings and discussions, and it's just really difficult for me to engage. I don't know how anyone's been doing it or how people do it day to day. Yeah, my wife included, who worked from home for quite a while. My sister works from home. I don't know how they get on these calls and just sit there all day in front of a computer screen looking at others and talking this, that, or the other. I need to get out and do something. At least feel like I'm doing something, even if I'm not doing anything. In fact, lost a job previously to this one because I just could not be engaging in these conversations with consultants and others living on the other side of the country. Telling me how to do my job with boots on the ground here locally, and what needed to be done, or how we can go this route, or develop a solution to this situation we have. And it was, sort of my way or the highway. And you're sitting on a Zoom call for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a day. And then it's like, go out and, seize the day. And I'm like, well, I've been snoozing for the last 5 hours on a Zoom call, not necessarily motivated and inspired, from some Looney Tune in California telling me how to do my job here in Wilmington. So to me, I just get distracted, and my attention the focus goes elsewhere. But nonetheless, back to the substance of the conversation yesterday, and not that I got much of it, tuned in for 2 minutes, but nonetheless, we know the mayoral candidates. In fact, we had Mayor Saffo on last week, and he gave an extended conversation as it relates to building growth and some of the other issues that we face here in the city. And could we do better than the candidates running for this position, mayor of the city of Wilmington? Probably. But we have who we have. And to me, anyone who could align with Harold, someone who's never been able to reassure voters to get reelected to any public office he has held, whether it was the mayor years ago, not Mayor Saffo, meaning Mayor Peterson, or his completely ineffective term as our state senator, I just don't see the appeal and this, campaign push that he makes. So we need bold new ideas. And then goes to the typical progressive talking points when he refers to these new bold ideas. All right, and I understand. Time for a change, 15 years in office, the mayor, you can make that case. Time for a change, and to put someone in with these ideas that lend to the far left of the political spectrum, no thanks. I do think there is an interesting race taking shape on city council. 3 seats up for grabs. Kevin O'Grady, after bending and mending all the rules to get this waterfront development constructed, and now living, maybe he's out on the balcony right now enjoying this beautiful morning, taking it in. He not seeking re-election. The 2 candidates who are running for re-election, Charlie Rivenbark and Clifford Barnett. Among the other candidates, Luke Waddell is someone who I think has young appeal to him, some fresh blood into the mix. And while I may disagree with much of what he talks about, there is a candidate out there. His name is Philip White. I follow him on social media, and I got to say, the guy's putting in the work. And he often makes note of that while attending the various meetings and other council discussions that are being had here in Wilmington. He says, oftentimes I'm the only candidate for office other than those who are currently on council who is consistently at these meetings taking notes and putting the work in. And you know what? Even though I may disagree, I can commend him on the work he's putting in, even though I may disagree with him on certain things. Putting the time in, doing the work, being informed and educated on the issues, and then ultimately being your own voice if you do get elected That is so incredibly important in these races for local government, where pretty much it's a popularity contest. When you look at the vote totals, it says just that. You get your circle of friends, their circle of friends. You do the 3 degrees of, what is it, Kevin Bacon, and you can get a spot on local government. That's just the way it is. And then, of course, those who do not pay attention, or rather put their head in the sand, then when you get a letter from county government saying your property taxes are going up 30% and you don't know why, and then you're all upset, you go to the media and you complain about this, that, and the other. Well, maybe you should have paid attention to those people running for office the last time around when you put someone with, like, the current New Hanover County Commission chair in charge of the business here in the county. There was another newcomer to the mix. In fact, a few of them. Jonathan Ustakigi, we know him as someone who has appeared on this show on multiple occasions, a native of Venezuela, and he's told his life story, and an incredible one at that, and what he has seen as far as, life as he once knew it in South America, and how quickly their society crumbled as they steered away from some of the free market ideas and the vast amounts of natural resources that they were able to consume and turn into a way of life that maybe people in that nation never thought was possible. And now, they're sitting in bread lines and can't find basic medicines and foods to feed their people just 20 years after a socialist way of life took over. So Jonathan, I think, brings, as a small business owner and as someone who homeschools his kids, someone who brings a unique perspective to the debate. There's another Republican candidate. His name is J.B. Brookins. Paul Lawler is a former city councilman who fell out of the top 3 during the last city council race. He finished 4th. He's looking to get back into the frame. And the final candidate running for office is Angie Ulmer, someone who, at least from my understanding in local government, haven't really heard much about her over the course of the last, 15 years that I've been around. But nonetheless, that doesn't disqualify her. Just giving you sort of an overview of the local city council race and the mayoral race that will be taking shape here in Wilmington over the next several weeks. Again, if you would like not only to call in, but want to share feedback or looking for previous conversations or audio clips that you may or may not have heard, you can do so, of course, by emailing us or sending us a message on social media, and we'd be happy to look up anything that you may have missed, get you an audio clip, or point you to the direction to my website at joekatz.com, of course, where you can get a podcast commercial-free version of our show each and every day just after 10 o'clock as we sign off for the day. When we get back, Jessica Thompson of the Pacific Legal Foundation is going to join us and share some thoughts on, a case that she's working on here in the state of North Carolina. And, more government intrusion against people just trying to carve out a way of life here in the Tar Heel State. We'll head to Farmville, North Carolina, when we get back with Jessica Thompson of the Pacific Legal Foundation.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is sounding an urgent call for Congress to raise the U.S. government's borrowing limit a day after Senate Republicans blocked consideration of a bill that would have done so. Yellen testified before a Senate committee at a hearing yesterday to update Congress on the impact of the vast financial support programs the government enacted after the viral pandemic paralyzed the economy 18 months ago. If the debt limit isn't raised, Yellen says, the country would likely face a financial crisis and economic recession. The U.S. Secretary of Defense and top military leaders testifying publicly yesterday for the first time since the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan and the suicide bombings that killed 13 U.S. troops and dozens of Afghans. The Pentagon leaders defended the decision to leave at the end of last month, saying staying longer would have put U.S. personnel at greater risk. But Generals Mark Milley and Frank McKenzie testified they advised both former President Trump and President Biden that the military should have kept a presence on the ground. An arrest has been made in a fatal hit-and-run on Carolina Beach Road on September 19th that killed Ahmaud Brown. The State Highway Patrol arresting 22-year-old Adam Marshall of Wilmington, charging him with felonious hit-and-run resulting in death. Additional charges are likely. Anyone who had contact with Marshall on Saturday, September 18th in the Carolina Beach area should contact Highway Patrol. And new hurricane sensor technology is now ready to deploy if a storm comes our way. Beach Access Number 2 in Wrightsville Beach is one of the locations chosen to place a temporary sensor if necessary. The sensors are installed 2 to 3 days before a hurricane makes landfall and are removed when conditions improve. Spencer Rogers with North Carolina Sea Grant says the technology will provide data for better storm prep in the future. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Well, it's going to be another pleasant day from start to finish across the Cape here. We're expecting temperatures, though, to be above the average. Inland of the coast, we're going to be jumping into the middle and upper 80s. Along the immediate coastline, we're topping off in the low to middle 80s, but expect lots of sunshine, and the quiet weather will continue. We do have a cold front that's on the way later this evening, and our temperatures tonight are only going to fall down into the middle and the upper 60s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Hey, this is Matt Ham, co-founder of Uprint Faith and Personal Development. Join myself and Kevin Adams every Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Wilmington's Big Talker for a fun, uplifting conversation about the upside of upside-down living.
Heading down the stretch on this beautiful morning across southeastern North Carolina. Looks to me like a great day to play hooky. Call out with a tummy ache and get some body surfing in. Pull the kids from school. They're not learning anything anyway. Do we ruffle feathers over here or what? It's part of the entertaining aspect of what we do, not only to inform day to day. We also need to provide a little entertainment for y'all to stay tuned in. I mean, apologize. I've got massive amounts of vitamin C and B12 moving through my veins today thanks to the IV I got on air about an hour ago. I'm like working up a sweat this morning. So without further ado, let's get to our last guest of the day. Last but not least, her name is Jessica Thompson. She's with the Pacific Legal Foundation. We talked a bit about her efforts last year to rein in the king of tyranny and, the lopsided rules that were apparently following the science and data that allowed restaurants, bars, wineries, breweries to open, but not private establishments. Jessica represented an establishment out of Greenville, and ultimately, just as it looked like they were going to win their case, well, the king of tyranny, as he does often, puts his finger in the air, sees the political wind blowing against him, and he then makes a decision that prevents him from getting some bad press. Jessica, it's a pleasure. It's been a while, and I hope all is well. Good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Thank you for having me. It's great to be back on with you.
Hey, a little birdie told me that you had some big life event that you recently celebrated not too long ago. I don't want to get into it too much, but congratulations, by the way.
Well, thank Thank you so much. Yes, I got married in North Carolina in Chapel Hill earlier this summer, and married life is going great. So thank you.
Good for you, and we wish you many years of success and all the work that you do. I'm sure keeps you very busy. So you must have a very patient, significant other in all the work that you get tied up in day to day.
Yes, he's very supportive, especially of our efforts down in North Carolina, to advance our constitutionally protected liberty.
Yeah, talk about the Pacific Legal Foundation and kind of the mission that you and your colleagues are on day to day, not only here in North Carolina, but all across the country.
Yeah, so, at Pacific Legal, we fight to protect the opportunity for people to improve their own lives. And so that's brought us down to North Carolina to help out a gentleman named Mark Shirley. He's an entrepreneur and a barbecue chef. He's prepared Eastern North Carolina barbecue his entire life. And about 2 years ago, he left his job at an auto sales lot to pursue his passion and follow his dream of opening a food truck and serving his neighbors hot, delicious barbecue.
And this is something that has become extremely popular across North Carolina. This idea of mobile food service, and it's something that I enjoyed where I grew up in the state of New Jersey. At a place called Rutgers University a long time before. And my brother-in-law, who's a chef, we're always kicking each other in the rear end because we had wanted to pursue this sort of endeavor long ago. And now here in Wilmington, we're overpopulated with food trucks. Not to say that we wouldn't still beat out the competition, but very cool to see someone break away from, what could be a very lucrative career, in the auto sales business. And in fact, I know a lot of people that make a lot of good money. They work their tail off to do it. But nonetheless, pursuing passions. And then what do you know? Government looks to get in the way and stymie all efforts to lead a life of success in pursuit of happiness and passion.
That's right. Yeah, economic favoritism rears its ugly head again. So the town of Farmville, where Mark was operating his food truck and steadily building a loyal customer base, some of the brick and mortar restaurants there started to complain that he was a little too successful. So the town of Farmville amended their food truck ordinance, and they changed it in three major ways. First, the permit fee went from $100 a year, which was reasonable. That's what Mark was paying. It suddenly jumped to $75 a day. And so because it was also amended in the ordinance and permitted him to only operate 2 days a week in the town, that totals up to $7,800 a year just in permit fees to the town. And then they also changed the proximity restriction. Previously, he had to operate 100 feet away from the front door of a brick and mortar restaurant. But they changed it to say you have to operate 100 feet from the parcel line or the property line of the nearest brick and mortar restaurant. So that put Mark just outside of being able to operate in the private lot that he was leasing. So essentially, it ran Mark out of town.
And from that, you're obviously trying to challenge this. You're representing his business and his efforts to try and win back his right to conduct business as he sees fit on a private plot of land. What's the case that you're building here against the town?
Yeah, so last week we sued the town of Farmville in Pitt County. And, this is not only just fighting for Mark's right to earn an honest living, but Mark says he's fighting for the next generation of entrepreneurs that are growing up in Eastern North Carolina, having a dream, and they want to be able to pursue that dream too. So he's fighting for what the North Carolina Constitution calls the right to the fruits of your labor. So the right to earn an honest living. The purpose behind these proximity restrictions is to favor brick and mortar restaurants, to help them and to push Mark out of business. And that's not a legitimate purpose for regulations under the North Carolina Constitution. So we have that constitutional challenge. The North Carolina Constitution protects your individual liberty more than the federal Constitution. So we also have an equal protection claim because your economic liberty is a fundamental right in North Carolina. And so the fact that brick and mortar restaurants don't have to stay away from other brick and mortar restaurants or ask permission to operate, that brick and mortar restaurants aren't limited to operating 2 days a week. That's an unequal law and an arbitrary and protectionist and discriminatory law that Farmville has placed on to Mark's food truck business. So we're challenging that under the equal protection. But finally, this egregious permit fee, so-called permit fee that the town of Farmville has assessed on Mark, that's really a tax because they're raising general funds. They mentioned that they might buy some equipment for the Parks and Rec Department. And the General Assembly hasn't granted towns the authority to just levy taxes on businesses as they see fit, probably because of economic favoritism like this. And so the town of Farmville just doesn't have the authority to do this. So we're also challenging this egregious $7,800 a year permit fee.
I mean, they come out of left field with this, monetary increase. You go from $100 a year to $75 a day. I mean, how can any business withstand that sort of well, frankly, tax that gets placed on you on a daily basis? And from my understanding is that this guy was operating the food truck twice a week, and
yeah,
and was kicking the competition's butt on a piece of private land. Different maybe if you're in the middle of the street, then it's public land, public property. It's private land where he takes out a rent or whatever. It's the private business's decision, or the private landholder's decision, to, at least in my mind, to allow this to play out. And wow, this is just another example of, again, the government getting in the way. Because I'm sure some of the stakeholders there have the ears of the city council members that went to push this man out of an opportunity to make a living for himself and do something that he's always dreamed of. That's incredibly sad.
That's right. And that kind of protectionist policies and things, that does happen, but that's the reason the North Carolina Constitution protects your right to earn an honest living, because majoritarian influences, people who have the ears of politicians, sometimes they can, lead to protectionist policies. But that's why it's so important that the state constitution protects our individual liberty, including the right to earn an honest living, and that North Carolinians know about that right and they, stand up for that right. And that's why we're so glad to partner with Mark, who's fighting for all North Carolinians' right to earn a living.
Jessica, as we let you go, what's the next step in this case after filing the lawsuit last week?
That's right. So we filed our complaint in Pitt County. We are awaiting an answer or a response from the town of Farmville. So we will be receiving that, in about 30 days or so from here. So if your guests are interested in following the case, I encourage them to Google Pacific Legal Foundation and Farmville Food Truck, and you'll find us on social media. We have a case page up that'll have all the updates. So please follow along.
Jessica, thanks so much for the insight here this morning, and keep up the good fight. We are so for limited government and limited overreach, yet every time we talk to you, another glaring case of it playing out in our state. Keep up the good work, and thanks again.
Well, thank you, Joe. We appreciate it.
All right, we're 14 minutes in front of the hour. Jessica Thompson with the Pacific Legal Foundation. Again, they'll be keeping tabs and updates on the case through their various social media platforms. You want to know more about this organization known as the Pacific Legal Foundation, you go to their website at pacificlegal.org. 13 minutes in front of the hour as we get set to wrap up our program, Wednesday edition of the show. If you'd like to call in, 910-299-7535.
I'm K.O. Davis from K.O.'s Coast to Coast Tree, and I want to be your tree man.
When your trees need cut, 2 letters to know. One is a K, the other is is an OKO.
Tree man. Proper trimming is the most important thing that you can do, so don't just hire anybody to do it. You need someone that knows what they're doing.
KO.
Call the professionals at KO's Coast to Coast Tree and visit KOTrees.com.
I'm Jason Gaver, and I'm running for Leland Town Council because Leland is where my wife and I are raising our daughter. I have a clear vision for Leland's future, keeping taxes as low as possible, spending every dollar wisely, focusing on core priorities like infrastructure and public safety, planning for future growth. I'm ready to serve, and I ask for your support. If you have questions or would like to learn more, please visit jasongaver.com. Paid for by the Committee to Elect Jason Gaver.
Acoustic wave therapy at the Frank Institute is a revolutionary treatment for inflammation, issues of blood flow, and is a solution for the constant suffering of chronic pain. Through the localized transmission of sound waves, stem cells are stimulated to bring about restored blood flow, vascular regeneration, and the disbursement of pain receptors to affected areas. If you've been told that your issues could not be treated without surgery or prescription, give us a call. Non-invasive, non-surgical, and prescription-free. Acoustic wave therapy is only available at the Frank Institute. Call today, 910-679-8534, and ask about acoustic wave therapy.
I'm State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better state. We are one of the fastest growing and most reviewed insurance agencies in Wilmington. That's because our customers love the personalized attention that we give to you. Let us help you get to a better state by visiting our website at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Termites, mosquitoes, roaches, spiders. The list of insects and pests goes on and on. So how do you keep them all at bay and out of your home? Call the professionals at Bugno Pest Control. That's Mr. Bugno to you, pal. Bugno Pest Control can not only eliminate insects and pests from in and around your home, they also guarantee it. They are fully licensed and insured, family owned and operated for all your pest control needs. Call Bugno Pest Control, 910-367-2501, or visit bugnopestcontrol.com. Rated 5 stars on Angie's List and HomeAdvisor.com.
O'Leary's Automotive Repair has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
All right, as we recap this morning, of course, we heard from the generals yesterday, from the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, testifying in front of the Senate Armed Services Committee. I think there are a lot of things that, well, opening people's eyes to the fact that, well, as General Milley said, the strategy was a failure. Logistically, you give us a mission, we're going to carry it out, whether we agree, disagree. That's what our guys on the ground do. And we carried out the mission successfully. As far as the strategy and all of this, well, admittedly, he says it's a failure. It was a failure. So and to think that then he goes on to say that within 12 to 36 months, we could be dealing with a situation where we're on the cusp of dealing with another terrorist attack from, well, these organizations that have now taken over a country that we were involved in for 20 years, and in 12 to 36 months after 20 years, we could be dealing with another catastrophic situation on the homeland. That's leaving a bad taste in the mouths of many, particularly those who are dealing with family members who gave the ultimate sacrifice over the last 20 years. Thousands of people killed in action, thousands more injured. Massive amounts of money invested into this country. And at this point, you say, well, for what? If, we pick up, we leave, and in 12 months, we're going to be dealing with, another circumstance that, could change the direction of the way we look at the world again. The terrorists are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook. As Denny Green so famously once said, Vikings and Arizona Cardinals coach. And then, of course, what the elephant in the room there was General Milley, who talked to Woodward in the book and admitted that he talked to various authors about this, that, and the other. And, he did confirm, though, a part of that every conversation he had with, adversarial generals in China, elsewhere, people within the former administration knew that some of them were in the room. Again, the original and the initial reaction we had when that headline was put out there was that, these tell-all books from the swamp dwellers who are just trying to leech on to a little bit more, spotlight and make a little bit money off a book, oftentimes, can distort, twist, and create a situation that is not necessarily reality. Though, we heard from retired Navy SEAL this morning, Chris McKinley, who says, he's worked alongside people who are under the guidance of Milley, and you get into these high levels of government. It's just like any other administrative state. They're looking after themselves and not necessarily, looking into the best interests of those below him or her. And that his role as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is to provide information from the generals on the ground to the commander-in-chief. We also found, of course, that the commander-in-chief went against some of the recommendations to keep more troops on the ground as this evacuation and withdrawal began. So that was much of the news out of Washington yesterday. We also had Nancy Pelosi. Either she was pulling the curtain back to show that, the Wizard of Oz was just a guy like me playing a one-man band, and that wasn't the almighty wizard the way we thought he may have been, in terms of this ongoing conversation around the debt limit and some of the other things that are being discussed this week in D.C. as far as the spending plan, infrastructure, the reconciliation, the government shutdown that is looming. Well, Nancy, either she was pulling the curtain back, so to speak, and showing us who the true puppet master is in this Harris-Biden administration, or have another idea as to, this comment she delivered yesterday that everyone just kind of was like,
Keep government open. We have to do those imminently. More imminently even to address the full Obama agenda of building back better.
Did she say the Obama agenda? So is Bo, who celebrated his 6-0 with all the celebrities out there in Martha's Vineyard that supposedly is going to be underwater due to rising sea levels over the next 15 years, if the predictions by AOC are correct. I guess he's enjoying it now while it lasts. But apparently Obama's agenda to build back better is what the Speaker of the House was talking about. So is he the puppet master pulling the strings in this misguided administration?
Keep government open. We have to do those imminently, more imminently even to address the full Obama agenda of building back better.
So is it the Obama agenda, or is it a case of Nancy Pelosi living by, the theme of you can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning? Meaning she was probably to the sauced level of what we typically see her in being, as the Speaker of the House, just a lush, and just misspoke about the Obama agenda of Build Back Better. That was like a comment she made at 10 o'clock in the morning, getting that grandpa's old cough medicine for breakfast. Just a little taste, from the flask while I'm enjoying breakfast. You can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning, folks. As we round out the program this morning, Thursday, we've got a bunch of great guests. This would be like a Girl Power Thursday. Our friend Hannah Cox from the Foundation for Economic Education going to join us. We'll be speaking with Well, 4 local women as well, one by the name of Josie Barnhart, a very passionate parent who's joined us on call-ins during this COVID mess. She wants to toss her name in the hat for a seat on the new Hanover County School Board next year. We'll talk about those efforts along with the efforts of another woman who is seeking a seat on the new Hanover County Commission. Her name is Libby Dunn. And the Chicas from Just Talk, or Just Think, the podcast, will also be rejoining the show. Kristen and Amy Ludwig will join us tomorrow as well to talk about their podcast, their decision to put their kids into a new private school, take them out of the public system, and how that week is going, their first week of a new school and a new way of life for their families. We'll talk with Amy and Kristen Ludwig to round out the program, along with Libby Dunn and Josie Barnhart. Hannah Cox also with us tomorrow as well. Looking forward to that conversation. And as we round it out, professional sports back in swing, the packed college football stadiums, we see the NFL. Well, for you hockey fans out there, you're going to have to muzzle up if you want to attend a Carolina Hurricanes game this year. Fans will have to wear masks at all Carolina Hurricane home games this season. As they announced, all fans 2 years old and up will be required to wear face masks at all times inside PNC Arena. Muzzle up, folks, if you want to go watch some professional hockey up in Raleigh this upcoming season. Have a great day. Be safe out there, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Keeping Bald Head Island informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
President Biden canceled a trip to Chicago today so he can keep negotiating with members of his own party on his economic agenda. Democrats